Isaiah chapter 58 and verse 1. Cry aloud, spare not, lift up thy voice like a trumpet, and show my people their transgressions, and the house of Jacob their sins.
Copyright disclaimer. This content does not belong to Bible Chronicles or claim this intellectual property. The content provided today has and always will belong to the content owner. Bible Chronicles does not have any affiliation with the owner of this property. As mentioned, Bible Chronicles did not intend to make use of any material for the purpose of harvesting gain. However, Title 17 of United States copyright law states material in use can only be done when it's for theological or general educational purposes, and thus Bible Chronicles believes that this principal material falls under fair use, which honors protection under Section 107 of the same U.S. copyright law.
Viene a decirnos con mucha firmeza y gran convencimiento lo mismo que nos decía en el siglo XVIII el barón de Holbach, un filósofo francés de origen alemán. Si nos remontamos al comienzo, entonces hallaremos que la ignorancia y el temor crearon a los dioses. La fantasía, el entusiasmo, el engaño los adornaron o desfiguraron. La debilidad les rinde culto, la credulidad los conserva, la costumbre los respeta y la tiranía los apoya para que la ceguera de los hombres sirva a sus propios intereses.
Okay. All right, fam. Hold on a second real quick. Let me get this right. All right, so I'm doing this again because my dumbass erased yesterday's video. I didn't mean to. The thumbnail that was supposed to look like this, for some reason, picked up a thumbnail that was looking like, which one is it? Oh, it's on the other computer. Anyways, it didn't, look, I'll show you guys. You guys can see I don't like the bullshit. Oh, check it out. And you don't say. All right, so check this out real quick. So whenever you go live, you use two softwares. One where you're seeing what I'm doing, and the other one like in the back end. So yesterday, that image was the same as the other image of the class I did. And when I realized, not yesterday, but the day before, but when I realized that it looked the same, my dumbass erased the class that I had done, not necessarily the other thumbnail, or at least, like I just made a mistake. So I figured, you know what, let me not go without showing you this part of the video. I thought this was important, but I'm also going to kind of change it a little bit, maybe give you a little angle, and then we'll go from there. It's not going to be long. It'll be short. I promise you. But this is what I really, truly believe. Este pinche país, güey, este pinche país y su gente han sido tan deshonestos con nosotros de que francamente estos cabrones tienen que pagar, güey. Francamente es lo que debe que pasar. Ya es tiempo de que vayamos reconociendo. Y ¿sabes qué? Si quieres estar peleando con esos pendejos de que ellos son indígenas y que toda esa madre, güey, pues solamente están usando, como pinturas, dibujos y todo, y toda la estupidez del mundo. Pero si les preguntas algo en serio de su linaje, familia, su dieta, sus ropas, todo lo que hemos pasado nosotros, no saben nada de esa madre, güey. So it makes you think, okay, so then what the fuck? We're not wrong. So until white and black America embrace their fucking true history, this is going to continue. Propaganda is going to continue. Because, like, we hear people say shit like this, right?
Welcome back to Green Cards for Me.
Hold on. And it's fucking wrong. Right? But so-called brown folks and black folks, we say we're used to this. This is like the typical white way. Yeah. But now that I've been, and a lot of other people now, they're sharing with us like exactly how they feel. This is why when the video I showed you, it said, you're cursed. For this reason, this is such a secretive fucking nation of people. They both have something to hide. I've showed you books regarding the Jews and the Muslims of British Columbia. You know what I mean? Like, you got to think about why that was written. Let's go.
But not for where I expose MAGA immigration hypocrisy, one unhinged hypocrite at a time. And today, we're talking about the loud, proud, far-right, festering piece of flesh that is Laura Loomer. And shocker, once again, the call is coming from inside the house. Because this self-proclaimed white supremacist, anti-immigrant, America First extremist, who recently suggested feeding all 65 million Latino immigrants in the United States
clear, be very fucking clear that it wasn't just white folks agreeing with her on that shit. FBA is 100% signed up to that. FOPI is signed up to that shit.
To alligators is an anchor baby. That's right. Laura Loomer was born in Tucson, Arizona in 1993. That makes her 32 years old. She was born to Jeffrey Loomer, an American rheumatologist, and Joanna Hill, a British nurse.
How the fuck are these guys not white people? You guys are white folks claiming to be the people of the Bible. You're in no way, shape, or you're more Russian looking than anything. You look like Vladimir Putin's little brother and shit. You know what I mean? Fucking Russians. Fucking Polish and shit. The Blavatsky related people.
She was literally just visiting from the UK on a tourist visa when they met. And when she gave birth to Laura, still not a US citizen. So that makes Laura the exact anchor baby that she loves to rage about. The exact kind of birthright citizenship that she wants to ban is the only reason she's even in the United States to spew hate in the first place. She owes her entire existence to the immigration system that she now wants to tear down. And truthfully, I really don't love giving this wacky failed congressional candidate any more attention than she so clearly desperately wants. But when she's got the ear of the president, and likely even other small things of his, plus influence in far-right circles that actually shape real policy, it's not just fair game. It's absolutely necessary. Okay, I really don't like giving this woman more attention than she so desperately craves, but we have to talk about this Laura Loomer tweet. If there are two things that I personally care about, it's animal rights and immigrant rights, so let's read this. Why are kill shelters even still a thing? It should be a felony to euthanize a perfectly healthy dog or cat. Imagine how many animals we could have saved with the money we have wasted on illegal aliens. I hate illegals. Genuinely. I want these people out of my country ASAP. I have big feelings about the first part of this tweet, but I'm not going to discuss that right now. Let's jump right to the end. Because Laura says, I hate illegals. But if you watch my last video on her, then you already know that Laura's own mother wasn't even a US citizen when she gave birth to her. So Laura, we're going to need some clarification. Because if your mother came to the United States...
See what I'm talking about? First of all, whatever the fuck she is, I know she's not anywhere near what she claims to be. You're a goddamn European. You know what I'm saying? Claiming to be a Jew. Fine, you know, whatever. And these society in this time frame, apparently that's okay and embraced. But what about this other shit? Where's the uproar? Where's the uproar? Look at this. Comparing animals to people. How is this any different than the way they talk about Gaza or the people of Gaza? How is this any different?
States on a tourist visa, overstayed that visa and had you, then we're getting into some murky water. Maybe even some murky alligator water. Because if that visa expired and she overstayed, then that would make her an illegal. And by your own definition, Laura, not mine, but yours, that would make you an illegal too. So yeah, we're gonna need to see your mom's paperwork, entry date, exit stamp, visa status, everything. Riddle me this. The daughter of a British immigrant is outraged and demanding answers from a man born to two fake Cuban refugee immigrants about why actual refugee children are getting medical care in the United States. Not
Reminds me, stop calling these people Cuban, bro. Like the young dude that, like the video I had of that young guy when he started questioning that so-called Cuban, bro. And it's like, you're not Cuban, you white people, bro. You guys are Gringolandia and shit. You know what I'm saying? And you're not born in Cuba. So you're just wherever your parents are from. You've used our lands and titles as a trampoline. And then you go turn your back and kill our people. I mean, shit, you just ordered 11 people from Salvador to get shot. You couldn't confirm that they were really transporting drugs. There's 11 people on that little fucking boat that could not make it from Venezuela to Florida. And yet you blow them up. You shoot before you ask questions. That's no different than Hamas shit right there, family. Like, they're really prepping you for this stuff, man.
Cuban refugee immigrants about why actual refugee children are getting medical care in the United States. Not just any refugee children. We're talking about children from Gaza. These are children who have literally been left maimed, orphaned, or both by US-backed bombs. And the far-right extremists like Laura Loomer are absolutely losing their minds about it. And Florida Congressman Randy Fine rushed online to brag that Donnie T and Marquito have halted visas to Gazans, calling it a deep state operation, and crediting Laura Loomer for uncovering this. And yes, that's Laura Loomer, daughter of British immigrant, yet here she is furious that refugee children are being treated in the United States. And yes, the target of Laura Loomer's outrage is Marco Rubio, Secretary of State. And yes, that's Marquito, whose Cuban immigrant parents were not even US citizens when he was born. And let's not forget, he built his career on a fake refugee story claiming
their moms and their dads weren't even born here, family.
claiming his parents were Cuban refugees fleeing Castro. Of course, records proved later that that was all a lie. And their big excuse? We are full. Really? Was America full when your mom moved here from the UK? Was it full when Rubio's family came from Cuba? When Donnie's mom came from Scotland? Funny how America's never full until it's refugees they don't like.
So now we get a glimpse, an idea, well, just a perspective of what we're used to. Raza, we've been talked like this for a long time. And there's nobody representing you in the government branches or in any of the branches of government. So let me just rephrase that. That will speak up on your behalf and say, yo, what the fuck is this shit? They won't say, hey, you fake or wannabe Israeli because your parents told you that you are, but yet you're Europeans fucking blood and through. That's some racist shit. No. I mean, obviously, you know damn well when, you have black representatives, they will call that shit out all day. But see, Raza, you don't have that shit. Neither do Cubans or Puerto Ricans. Like, you know what I mean? That's just a fact. Because this Cuban B right here, he don't give a fuck about you. If you really are Taino, he don't care about you. He cares about that shit, that people that he comes from. If you white, you all right. But see, that's not all though. The reason why I say it must be told is because until America admits their true fucking form, 100%, this shit's not going to stop. The anger, the disagreement, the misunderstanding, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is not going to stop. And this is why your fake doctrines, you come to my channel and post some dumb shit about your BHI bullshit, and then I call you out on this. All of a sudden, you have nothing to say. This is why. Thank you, brother, for sending me this right here.
So I'm getting tired of people.
I'm telling you right now.
Saying Black Americans was.
This is why it's important. As long as you keep lying to yourselves, there will never be.
So I'm getting tired of
ever. As long as you keep lying to yourselves, there will never be truth. You see, unlike what every one of us was told, supposedly gringos came in 1492 by chance, landed here, and all of a sudden they ended up enslaving us. And then in 1619 brought black folks over here, and that was it. You know what I'm saying? And then they took over, whatever. Slavery, all this shit, segregation, blah, blah, blah. All that, the whole little good American history, they call it. But now we know that that is not true. Contrary to the actual alternative fact, because that's what it is. It's a paradigm. Some people, when you tell them the stuff we tell you, they were never going to wrap their mind around that. They can't. That in 1492, the white man didn't come by himself, that he had the black man to help him, or dark-skinned, swart people, Muslims as well, Arab motherfuckers. You guys are too in it. Trust and believe. That's why you still have a good portion of your liquor stores. You got a lot of investments in here, Ishmael. You get what I'm saying? So it's not just these two. But the fact is that lots of these nations came and enslaved a lot of natives, first and foremost. So before we can get extremely offended by this, right? Because it is offensive as fuck, you have to wake up to the fact that this also happened to you. And that people like Kim did that shit to you as well, and to themselves, and to white folks. I'm glad I found this video. Let's continue.
So I'm getting tired of people constantly saying Black Americans were slaves, and people being taught history the wrong way. One of the first slave owners in America was a black man. A lot of slave owners were black people, and they owned white people, and they also owned Native Americans. They even had to make a law for us to not enslave white people anymore in early America. It's just a history that isn't taught, because the colonizer didn't want the Black Americans to have a sense of pride, to know that we were actually ruling something.
And he is 100% correct. That's why I keep saying y'all in a little conundrum here between a rock and a hard place. On one hand, the white man don't want to admit that you helped them, because then that they lose power. You know what I'm saying? Like they're not the people that supposedly ruled. And then at the same time, the black man don't, or the black woman too, whatever, however you want to say it, or the black culture, the black nation, whatever, Africans, they don't want to admit it, because then takes away from this.
They changed the school system late 1800s, early 1900s, and erased the history of what was actually going on in the 1500s, in the 1600s, even the 1700s, and some of the 1800s in America. We owned slaves too. A lot of us were slaves in some of the 1800s in America. We owned slaves too. America. We owned slaves too.
Mark that September 9, 2025, fam. That's why when you consider everything we know, now these books, like regarding some weird shit, you know what I'm saying? Like some weird shit, you know? Like let's say, oh shit, my bad. Hold on, so the hell? Get out of the way, dog. Give me a second, fam. Let me close this up. That's not what I wanted to. Nah, I'm not gonna save it. What the hell's wrong with you? Some invoice, my bad. Anyways, hold on. Let me bring up what I was trying to bring out. Here, let me play it. Let me look for it.
A lot of us were even the colonizers. They just hid that history because they just want you to think black people have always been a slave and all this other stuff. It is not what you think. So soon I'm going to make a video on early when we were actually running things in America. We actually ran America at a point. We actually ran certain parts of America. The history is just hidden. So later, probably today or tomorrow, I'm going to make a video on how we used to own slaves that were white, Native American, black, all types of races. We were not always slaves. We actually started off as slave owners. We were enslaving people in Europe. We were enslaving Caucasian people in Europe. This is real history. We were not always the victim. We actually started off somewhat as the oppressors.
Glad that he said it like that. I've shared this book to you guys before. Jews and Muslims in British colonial America. Okay. There's a reason why this is important. Look at that shit right there. That shit looks Islamic. Right? And also, why it was important. Hold on, let me see if I can open it up. Yeah. Why it was important to bring this out as well. Because a lot of you guys thought that I was bullshitting. You guys thought I was a fucking racist. Yeah, I'm sure he does. But the important thing is that they admit it. Because you can't have one without the other. Official history of Freemasonry. This guy right here talks about history regarding Freemasonry of colored people. Official history of Freemasonry among colored people. Right there. So that's the problem, though. That it wasn't just like one nation, like one white Europeans that came and conquered. It was multiple Jews and Muslims, Negroes. Were all Jews white? No. Were all Muslims white? No. You see what I'm saying? If you go back to the classes I've done with y'all regarding their so-called enslaving of the Spaniards and Portuguese, because that's what they predominantly were, this Muslim and Jew power, because that's what they got expelled from. Remember, keep in mind, they weren't really mastering everything else as badass as they did in Spain and in Portugal. Those people then got kicked out and were sent over here. You understand what we're going with now? That's what he's saying, Now, you're right. That's some wobble shit to believe that supposedly you were here originally. But if you were here originally, then wouldn't those people have not allowed these things to occur because they would have been the same people as you? And that means also that this Freemasonry shit is not real. 1717, you guys had power. So that's why I say, until you can admit to each other what you have done, and that you owe a debt. You do,
America,
you owe a debt, whether you like it or not. I don't give a flying fuck. You owe a debt. You came here. I mean, shit, you could look at the American Holocaust, a very, very fucking heavy duty book. That book covers a lot of what occurred. The true Holocaust, which, by the way, in case you don't know, Holocaust is actually meaning sacrificing. But that's exactly what they're doing over there in Hamas over there. That's some sad shit, man. But let's continue. You are both cursed, and that's why you both don't want to admit it.
imperial era of Europe, the neoliberal economic firing squad of corporate power. They used to spray their bullets like a mass shooter all across the global south. Well, America is descending into madness. You're descending into madness because you're cursed. That's why I've said you cannot properly analyze geopolitics. You cannot properly analyze geopolitics if you exclude the reality of divine justice. You cannot exclude God from your assessments. You can't exclude Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from your forecasts. And you cannot be as unjust, as brutal, as degenerate, as wicked as America has been, and actually think that the consequences are not going to be severe. You understand? The suffering of whole continents at your hands is going to ricochet back onto America.
Which is why we cannot take certain things lightly. Like this guy here.
So I'm getting tired of people constantly saying black Americans were slaves and people being taught history the wrong way. One of the first slave owners in America was a black man. A lot of slave owners were black people. And they owned white people. And they also owned Native Americans. They even had to make a law for us to not enslave white people anymore. And law for us to not enslave white people anymore in early America. It's just a history that isn't taught because the colonizer didn't want the black Americans to have a sense of pride, to know that we were actually ruling something.
And now they don't want to admit the fact that they were that stupid and lost power. Which is why now they're crying reparations and, oh, poor me, and all that bullshit. So basically what he's saying is since 1500 all the way through 1800, they had it good. And then for 100 and something years, all of a sudden now they got it bad. Now they're complaining. Now they're complaining now. Now that's a problem. That's a problem. Hold on, let me say what's up to everybody. What up, BTC? What up, dog? What up, La Meshi? Hold on a second. What's up, Shivalva? V Ladder. What up, dog? All be revealed. Hold on a second, man. For everybody, man. For everybody. Hold on. Viva Mexico, cabrones! And for you crazy white people that are losing your minds.
I'm not arrogant. I'm on a power trip. I'm in a total commitment against evil. I'm pouring out my guts, my soul, my family, everything I've got committed to this, and I will not have pieces of fucking shit lie about me and say I'm not true. I will fucking destroy you, scum, all of you.
Crazy Cracker Barrel, bro. Cracker Barrel. Crazy Cracker Barrels, man. But anyways, getting back to the point, see, if you're that passionate about true facts, then how come you don't admit this stuff right here? See, the thing is with
Black Americans,
I have more respect for him. I have a lot of respect for him to admit it. At least you're admitting it. That's all I'm saying. At least you are admitting it. Because there's nothing like admitting it and then, I don't sound like I'm stupid or I'm making some shit up. Here, I'll read this to you. Here, I'll show you real quick. And again, this is all from people working together, man. Old Dominion. Okay, so I got this book called Old Dominion, Virginia, the Old Dominion. Okay. Give me a second. It's called Virginia, the Old Dominion. Page. I wrote down the pages incorrectly. Page 88. This is page 88. The other one is page 89. Okay. So unlike what we've been told, 1619, stuff like that. See, you're being not even like you're not being sincere. You're being disingenuous. You're fucking liars now. Now you're just fucking liars. Because here in this book called Virginia, the Old Dominion, page 88, not 89, it says the last of this month of August 1619 that marked the establishment of civil liberty and self-government saw also the introduction of a new class of immigrant laborers. They didn't call them slaves. Immigrant laborers. These were Negroes whose services, it now appears, were indentured, as in the case of whites from England and Europe. So here we see a classless society. Negroes, whites, y'all were treated the same. Were indentured in the case of whites from New England and Europe. Unlike what we were told from Cracker Barrel, America, this is not the case. Then it says, previously, it has been generally accepted that they were sold to the colonists as slaves, while the bringing of them had been ascribed to the Dutch. Recent research, however, has cast a new light upon the transaction. According to the available records, these Negroes includes people that come to this channel and try to say otherwise. These Negroes may not with certainty be called slaves. Why? For there is no proof that their persons were held as property or on terms any different from those of white laborers whose services were engaged under public or private ownership for varying lengths of time. Public and private, meaning like for the city or for just someone else. Like, see, for example, like if you work in a city, you're working in public. If you work for a company, you're working for a private organization. On the contrary, mon frere, the evidence early points to the customary indenture. For Virginia archive shows that throughout the 2nd century of the 17th century, meaning at the end of the 1650, okay, Negroes were being released at the end of their periods of indenture. That's not slavery. Gradually, racial slavery grew out of these conditions as the English settlers followed the example of the Spaniards in the West Indies, whence the first importation came. You guys do realize that English were heavier at enslaving and having like slaves than Spaniards. Spaniards were more lenient to slavery than English. So here we're seeing that there was no such thing as 1619 bullshit. No such thing. Subsequently, as the merchants and mariners of old and New England discovered that the seizure of blacks in Africa and their sale in America was highly profitable, nothing but prohibitory actions by Crown or Parliament could stop it. But as the guy was saying, Negroes were enslaving themselves as well. English mariners, merchants, and ship owners had already profited by the sale of Negroes to the Spaniards. And so it was natural as they should bring this human merchandise to the Anglo-American colony. But that's not the case. So this is why I say until this whole fucking bunch of you people, and I'm not talking about like specifically one nation, I'm talking about all of you. White, black, brown, Hindu, you know what I'm saying? Arabs, all of you fucking liars, bro. You're propagandizing this stuff here. And you're not making it any better.
I feel like I've been saying this a lot lately, which is concerning in and of itself, but there's a once fringe ideology that is becoming far more mainstream in recent years. It's something we should be paying close attention to. It's called national conservatism. It's a far-right isolationist national ideological faction. This past week, national conservatism, at the National Conservatism Conference, NatCon for short, it was held in D.C., and you can pick up a vibe from some of the names of the panels and the speeches, like, quote, the threat of Islamism in America, or the Bible and American renewal, or overturn Obergefell, which, of course, is the Supreme Court ruling that legalized same-sex marriage. And again, this was not a fringe event. These speeches did not happen in any shadows. The conference was attended by Republican members of Congress, officials from the Trump administration, and wealthy donors. One of the more notable speeches came from Eric Schmidt, who's the Republican senator from Missouri. His speech posed the question, quote, what is an American?
Are the sons and daughters of the Christian pilgrims that poured out from Europe's shores to baptize a new world in their ancient faith. America, in all its glory, is their gift to us, handed down across the generations. It belongs to us. It's our birthright. It's our heritage, our destiny. If America is everything and everyone, then it is nothing and no one at all. We've funneled in millions of foreign nationals to take the jobs, salaries, and futures that should belong to our own children.
My word.
Well, Cracker Barrel says that, manifest destiny, because that's the way the white man was. We came here and we ruled. And this is why I'm fucking mad at you both. As I think both of you guys are a fucking joke. White and black folks, y'all are fucking jokes. You guys are a fucking joke. On one hand, the white man says, oh, we're the greatest, we conquered everything. When we know damn well that wasn't true. And on the other hand, you say like, oh, well, we had nothing to do with that. And now all of a sudden you act like it never happened. The fuck? What do you call that shit? Edom and Canaan?
People constantly saying black Americans were slaves, and people being taught history the wrong way. One of the first slave owners in America was a black man. A lot of slave owners were black people, and they owned. So I'm getting tired of people constantly saying black Americans were slaves. Were black people, and they owned white people, and they also owned Native Americans. They even had to make a law for us to not enslave white people anymore in early America. It's just a history that isn't taught, because the colonizer didn't want the black Americans to have a sense of pride, to know that we were actually ruling something. They changed the school system late 1800s, early 1900s, and erased the history of what was actually going on in the 1500s, in the 1600s, even the 1700s, and some of the 1800s in America. We owned slaves too. A lot of us were even the colonizers. They just hid that history.
That a lot of them were even the colonizers.
They just hid colonizers. A lot of us were even the colonizers. They just hid that history because they just want you to think black people have always been a slave and all this other stuff. It is not what you think. So soon I'm going to make a video on early when we were actually running things in America. We actually ran America at a point. We actually ran certain parts of America. The history is just hidden.
Check this out. I don't think I've actually ever brought this page out before. Maybe I have. But this is from a book called Africa's Gift to America. And you have this slaver here. This is a slaver. Okay? All right? He's a slaver. He's a slaver too. You can see that right there. On the bottom, it reads, the Suaza, the Chacha of Brazil, slave Mogul of West Africa. Saber, the most notorious of the slave raiders. What are we doing here? Same book, I believe, page. I don't know what page this is, honestly. It says here, what does it say? They were as eager to sell as the white to buy. Strong to, I don't want to start. Oh, here it goes right here. Two of the most notorious, Norbert da Souza and John Orban, were mulattoes with Christian rearing. The Souza, prince of slavers, better known as Chacha, was born in Brazil. John Orman had been educated in England. The Souza lived in the palace of Dahomey like a Maharaja. He had a harem drawn from many parts of the world. Captain Drake, American slave dealer, said that Chacha offered him the pick of them. You shall have French, Spanish, Greek, Caucasian, English, Dutch, Italian, Asian, American. Here we're seeing that you Negroes, I don't give a fuck if you're from, Portugal. Brazil. You were slavers like the white man. You are Negro colonizers, like that guy said. You shall have French, Spanish, Greek, Circassian, or Caucasian, I guess. I don't know what the fuck they meant by that. I'll look it up later. English, Dutch, Italian, Asiatic, American, or any other kind. Autobiography of Slave Smuggler, 1807-1856. Download that book. Autobiography of a Slave Smuggler. See also Mayor B. Adventures of an African Slaver, Chapter 33. And Doe, G.F. Slave Ships and Slaving. So these are 3 books, and this is how I find more material. When I see a reference, I search it and I look for it, and if I can't get it, I will try to get it as best as I can. 80% of the time, you'll find these books. So again, who is this guy? That's not a white dude. Ese no es un gringo, güey. Ese es un moreno, cabrón. It's not a white guy. Zephaniah Kingsley, it says. Same book. On this side of the Atlantic was Zephaniah Kingsley, 1765-1843, of Florida, with his East African Negro wife, Madadine Jai. Both made an immense fortune from smuggling slaves. Kingsley, who was related to Whistler's mother, was not only the richest man in Florida, but one of the richest in America, and a powerful political figure. His ships brought in many thousands of Negroes, bought at $25 each, in Africa and sold in America and the West Indies for $1,500. Once when U.S. Coast Guards captured 350 contraband blacks on Kingsley's ships, the government, not knowing what to do with them, turned them back to him. There's several references there. Florida History, Historical Quarterly, Volume 23. You can read it. Negro masters in the South weren't any kinder to their slaves than were the whites. Some had the reputation of being fucking worse. They fought with the Confederacy to hold them and were bitter at their loss. Fuck you, FBA. Fuck you, FBA. You can... Man, I don't even want to say shit like that. You guys are weak. You're dumb. You're lost. You have no excuse no more. When William Lloyd Garrison facilitated a Negro slaveholder in Charleston, South Carolina over the emancipation, he replied, "What, me happy at the freeing of me niggas?" Negro masters in the South weren't any kinder to their slaves than were the whites. This is a black man writing this book, by the way. You can look it up. Africa's Gift to America. It's not a white guy that wrote this shit. Some had the reputation of being worse. You guys fought with the Confederacy to keep them. That's why it says since 1492, y'all motherfuckers have owned slaves with the white man, and you fought with the Confederacy in 1865 to keep slaves. Until this day, no one can ever or will ever challenge me on that shit right there. That's why you guys are really quick to post shit, make comments to my channel, but you can't come with facts, which is why you stay away. You're going to tell me now, BHI, that supposedly all of a sudden now you guys are the people of the Bible, bro? What are you talking about, man? You guys have been enslaving people. I'm going to hear it again.
So I'm getting tired of people
The people in the back
saying black Americans were slaves, and people being taught history the wrong way. One of the first slave owners in America was a black man. A lot of slave owners were black people, and they owned white people, and they also owned Native Americans. They even had to make a law for us to not enslave white people anymore in early America. It's just a history that isn't taught, because the colonizer didn't want the black Americans to have a sense of pride, to know that we were actually ruling something. They changed the school system late 1800s, early 1900s, and erased the history of what was actually going on in the 1500s, in the 1600s, even the 1700s, and some of the 1800s in America.
See? So now that we have a good glimpse, idea, kind of like a thought process about these things, right? Now let's look at something very, 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 very important. Why do we keep being told this shit here?
Just straight up saying all the quiet parts out loud. As the Associated Press writes, the conference, quote, underscored the movement's vision of an America rooted in limited immigration, Christian identity, and the preservation of what speakers called the nation's traditional culture, end quote. According to Senator Schmidt, and I remind you, this is a United States senator, America is a country by and for Christian Europeans. He decries immigration, though he conveniently enough leaves space for the 19th century German immigrants from whom he is descended. But he excludes non-white immigrants, both those who came here of their own accord and those who did not, like enslaved Americans, the ones whose labor literally built this country. As for Native Americans,
see that? You see that right there?
He seemed to those who did not, like enslaved Americans, the ones whose labor literally built this country.
Really? After us reading that they also had slaves. So slavers built America?
As for Native Americans, he seemed to argue that the violence of colonization and pushing Native people out wasn't too bad because tribes also would go to war with each other. In a particularly chilling moment, Senator Schmidt made this declaration, quote, but America does not belong to them. It belongs to us. It is our home. It is a heritage entrusted to us by our ancestors. It is a way of life that is ours and only ours. And if we disappear, then America too will cease to exist, end quote. If we disappear. I cannot stress this point enough. This is not some random podcaster at a fringe conference. This is a sitting United States senator peddling unabashedly and unmistakably white supremacist language and ideology right out in the open. Keep talking about they, by the way. I think I may have found the they. Joining me now is Nicole Hannah-Jones, reporter for the New York Times Magazine and the creator of the landmark cross-platform, the 1619 Project. She's also the founder of the...
So here we start to get a glimpse, or at least a reference of they. Now, you'd be surprised, fam. That day is not you.
Center for Journalism and Democracy at Howard University. I think you might be the they. Like when he keeps warning about the they who are trying to take our culture away, and you don't even respond. I was watching you in the camera when I was reading the stuff and running the quote. You're kind of all over. You're over this. You've seen this movie before.
Yeah, I mean, we are the they, Ali.
Yeah.
So 1619 is the day. Really? Let me see something.
And one that will probably be the most surprising to readers is the one by Harvard historian Taya Miles on settler colonialism, Indian removal, and how the 5 so-called civilized tribes also engaged in chattel slavery. Engaged in chattel slavery. I knew we needed to have an essay that dealt with Indian removal, but we had to find the right one. So,
You mean you had to find the right one with your fucking fucked up narrative? Listen to this real quick.
the legacy of slavery and placing slavery at the center of the narrative. And that's what we did. It's not that we were hiding anything. I find the backlash in some ways unsurprising and in some ways surprising. For instance, with respect to Mr. Page, when one suggests that the 1619 Project is a project about Black victimization and not patriotism, it makes me wonder if Mr. Page even read the project, or if Mr. Page even read my essay, because my essay is about how Black people, despite undergoing chattel slavery, legal apartheid, lynching, rape.
Okay, so he's Mr. Page. He knows the true history. Now, listen to how she starts naming certain situations.
Legal apartheid.
Hold on. Sorry, my bad.
How Black people, despite undergoing chattel slavery.
Chattel slavery.
Legal apartheid.
Legal apartheid.
Lynching.
Terrorism. Rachel. Okay, so now, if you look back at history, that technically didn't start until when? 1619? No. 1920, fam. Remember, they had black colleges in 1890 fucking too. What the fuck? What are you talking about here? What are we talking about here? I mean, let's put it this way: Mexico and natives, Native Americans, we did not know how to read and write in those times, fam. They had fucking colleges. So what exactly are you talking about? When you continue to lie to yourselves about what the fuck you've done, you will always end up in the same fucking results. This is why this country is just fucked up in the head and made for destruction. You are cursed officially.
Segregated schools, segregated housing, segregated military, believed fervently in the founding ideals and have fought generation after generation to make those ideals true. And in fact, had a faith in a country that didn't treat us as citizens and expanded democracy for all Americans.
Now, my question is, at what point do you stop being like African American? I think this woman has probably about 80% white blood in her. She's like 20% African, supposedly. Like, when do you stop being black? Just because you have a little bit of woolly that makes you black? You got thicker noses that makes you black and shit? What, because you may want to sound like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what the fuck does this mean, fam? Because as far as I can remember, matter of fact, I'm going to show it right now. See, we cannot sit here and then wonder, like, well, hold on. Let me see if I can find that shit. I think it was all will be revealed. Hold on. Hey, was that you that sent me that video? There you go. Yep. Okay, cool. Sounds good. Yes, that's you. That's you. Thank the Lord, bro. So this is why when you stop lying to yourself, because we don't lie. These are the things that really occur to us. Sorry, I'm jumping back and forth with some situations here, but I just want to make a point.
You mentioned that I have a European Y chromosome. So that's my father's lineage. I have a European Y chromosome. My father's father's line is of European ancestry. In fact, my great grandfather was European. My great grandfather was European in Georgia. And I knew that before I actually did the testing. Once I did the Y chromosome test, I found that, lo and behold, I didn't have a African Y chromosome. I had a European Y chromosome. I didn't have a African Y chromosome. I had a European Y chromosome. So it confirmed the oral history in my family. Whether I had a Y chromosome from Europe or not, it didn't matter. Whether I had a Y chromosome from Europe or not, it didn't matter.
Well, it does matter. It matters.
You, me,
Yeah.
and frankly, millions and millions of Americans. The truth of our history is just so inconvenient right now. And as I was listening to this, I'm actually appreciative, right? Because for years, Republicans have fought historical frameworks that taught with mounds of supporting evidence, including actual words of our founders themselves, that America was founded as a racist, white supremacist nation. I mean, this has been their critique of the 1619 Project and other texts like that they're asserting that, we were founded as a fundamentally white supremacist nation.
They asserted that. But yet we read a lot of fucking material that says that's not true. What is the guy's, what's his name? Hold on, let me look for it.
So it's actually refreshing to see someone telling the truth, just to admit that this is what they think America was founded on and who they think America is for. It's also, of course, very ironic for him to claim the Pilgrims of 1620, but then say that his own family came here in Germany in the 1840s, and that somehow that makes him more of an American than me and my ancestors, knowing the first Africans came before the Pilgrims in 1619, and that by the time his ancestors arrived in 1840, most Black people here were born in America because we had stopped importing Africans in 1808. So that somehow you could admit that you yourselves descend from immigrants who come when,
it fucking pisses me off. And how, and I know why. You are set for destruction. You guys are the fucking 10 toes, bro. You're a nasty, dirty, lying sack of shits. It's disgusting that you are just like this, man. It's just fucking disgusting. This is one of your famous writers. I forgot. It's somebody post his name if you can. He's the one that debunks them with the DNA. Like he's like, no, you're not. You're the tribe of Europe. He wrote this book, okay? And in this book, in this page, it says this: an all-told number of free people of Africa descent, Black conquistadors born in Africa or on the Iberian Peninsula, also accompanied Spaniard conquistadors such as Hernán Cortés and Ponce de León. And we read Ponce de León was not necessarily a white fucking dude. Two of the famous explorers of the vast region that would become modern Mexico and the western and southern regions of the United States. And as we might expect, their exploits were just as heroic and just as problematic as those of their fellow conquistadors. Black and white conquistadors, Negro colonizers and white colonizers, European and African colonizers, whatever the fuck you want to call it, or Arab colonizers. Fuck all y'all three. But far more Africans came with the Spaniards and the Portuguese as slave servants with varying degrees of freedom and attendance and armed adventure. While the number of African explorers is impossible to determine, you see this? Impossible. Impossible. They participated in some way in virtually all the Spanish expeditions in the New World in the 16th century. These black, these negro, these macabro conquistadors, these llanta conquistadors set an example for subsequent racial relations throughout the entire Spanish colonial experience, living their daily lives with degrees of complexity that rarely would be achieved by Black men and women in the early English settlements in the Caribbean and North America. Indeed, wherever Spain set its flag of conquest in the Americas, Africans helped hold their fucking pee-pee. You fucking disgust me. You don't even have the balls to admit that shit. Or to even hit the link and to defend your fucking cause. You ain't no Hebrew. You are not no native of these lands. You are who you fucking are and have always been.
what drew them to these shores was the wealth created by Black labor and the theft of land through indigenous genocide, and think that you can erase all of us from being America. Frankly, it's refreshing to see them just explicitly argue this now. Because we've known they used dog whistles for years to say this thing, and now they're feeling liberated to say it.
And by the way, I can truly believe, I don't have any doubts, that she is, or at least knows of FBA, part of FBA, talks to FBA. So shut your fucking ass up.
Very clearly.
Right. I mean, normally when you hear a speech like that, it's because there was leaked audio.
And it's not even them. It's this piece of shit over here too. What the fuck are they doing supporting this shit? How come nobody says, hey, wait, hold on a second. Let's push back here, because the stuff that I'm reading is not saying the same thing.
From a conversation that wasn't supposed to be recorded. Like, this is actually televised. There's these movements in America, this blood and soil idea. There's the great replacement theory. He handled all of it in his speech. In fact, the speech was much longer than what we showed.
Not these fucking wobbles, FBAs, claiming the same replacement theory. Wobbles are claiming the same replacement theory, saying that they brought us in and got rid of them. They gave us their name and turned their name into something else. That's called replacement fucking theory. You are no different than the fucking white man, negro. You that believe in this shit, you that do this, and you know exactly who I'm talking about. Wobbles, BHIs, FOPIs, all of you FBAs, every single one of you dirty little bastards.
But even in that little segment, he handled all of it, right? That this is our land. They are somehow infringing on it. Although even you do the simple math and say that your ancestors were here before his were, but we don't get into that debate. But this replacement theory, if we lose,
you know what's so funny? Her ancestors were there before there. What about us, bitch? What the fuck? I mean, I fucking hear like what the fuck, little baldy Hindu bastard? What are we doing now? Like, you're just ignoring our shit here? Our presence doesn't matter, does it? Y'all are silly dogs, bro. You're so easy to get caught.
America is over.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a very dangerous theory, especially in this moment when we're seeing these mass deportations, when we're seeing Trump saying, next are going to be the homegrowns. It's this idea that it's not even just about who is being allowed to immigrate into our country now, but what is the very essence of who is an American, and therefore who should have the protections of the constitutions and full rights as citizens. Well, we've seen that America before. In fact, my father was born into that America, and that is an America with an entrenched racial caste system that is violently enforced. So I think, we can kind of shrug off it or laugh and say that this sounds ridiculous, but they're trying to control the way that we understand the history of this country so that they can control who has access to rights. It is actually chilling to hear a sitting senator say that this country does not belong to all these other people who are living in this country right now.
Right. You make an interesting point, both in the 1619 Project, but just generally, and that is the economy of this country was able to surpass that of many other economies because we had this free labor, basically. We had brought all these people in. America.
So 1492, 1619, 1680, 1700, they were using a lot of our native people in slavery to making this shit fucking function. But no respect of that whatsoever. No, it got to be a blackity black, bro, because, you know what I'm saying, the white man made it look bad and shit. The fuck out of here. It's disgusting, man. I'm gonna keep playing these things. Here, let me just play the curse part, because y'all are fucking cursed.
America, the imperial heir of Europe, the neoliberal economic firing squad of corporate power. They used to spray their bullets like a mass shooter all across the global south. Well, America is descending into madness. You're descending into madness because you're cursed. That's why I've said you cannot properly analyze geopolitics. You cannot properly analyze geopolitics if you exclude the reality of divine justice. You cannot exclude God from your assessments. You can't exclude Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from your forecasts. And you cannot be as unjust, as brutal, as degenerate, as wicked as America has been, and actually think that the consequences are not going to be severe. You understand? The suffering of whole continents at your hands is going to ricochet back onto America. I said you're cursed. You know it and I know it. That's the truth. We both know this. Because you can't have any sort of religious sense, any religious sense of justice, and not know that. Even if you call yourself a Christian, if you call yourself believing in God in any way whatsoever, you cannot pretend that you don't know that America is cursed, and it has been cursed ever since you all landed over there in the first place and started massacring the indigenous people and stealing their land. What your Zionist brigades are doing to the Palestinians right now is just a fraction of what you did to the Native Americans. What Hitler did was a fraction of what you did, in fact. And you really think that you were going to be able to escape the consequences of that? America, the imperial heir of Europe, the neoliberal economic firing squad of corporate power. They used to spray their bullets like a mass shooter all across the global south. Well, America is descending into madness. You're descending into madness because you're cursed. That's why I've said you cannot properly analyze geopolitics. You cannot properly analyze geopolitics if you exclude the reality of divine justice. You cannot exclude God from your assessments. You can't exclude Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from your forecasts. And you cannot be as unjust, as brutal, as degenerate, as wicked as America has been, and actually think that the consequences are not going to be severe. You understand? The suffering of whole continents at your hands is going to ricochet back onto America. I said you're cursed. You know it and I know it. That's the truth. We both know this. Because you can't have any sort of religious sense, any religious sense of justice, and not know that. Even if you call yourself a Christian, if you call yourself believing in God in any way whatsoever, you cannot pretend that you don't know that America is cursed, and it has been cursed ever since you all landed over there in the first place and started massacring the indigenous people and stealing their land. What your Zionist brigades are doing to the Palestinians right now is just a fraction of what you did to the Native Americans.
What is happening in Gaza, it's a microcosm compared to a macrocosm of what happened over here. Why do you think that they do stuff like this, fam?
Ahora tenemos.
Hold on a second. Let me play this. I actually appreciated this for a moment, man. Thank you very much, lady, for showing this real quick. Let me close this up because I'm tired of that bitch. Oh, hold on a second. I did save this for a reason. Oh, yeah. This is
safe.
This is crazy. I'm going to play this at the end. I want to play this at the end before we finish. That's a crazy video. Okay, so we know about this. We'll probably hear it one more time. Let's play it.
Que cargar nuestros pasaportes como si ser latino fuera un crimen. Mr. Speaker, I'm Latina, I'm a citizen, and I speak Spanish. My family has been in Nuevo Mexico for 17 generations. Today, ICE can now detain me if they hear me talking to my tía saying something like, hoy la Corte Suprema puso a todos los latinos en peligro de ser detenidos por ICE. Les dieron permiso de detener a cualquier persona que parezca latina, habla con acento en español o tenga un trabajo humilde. En vez de proteger a su gente, este gobierno acaba de condenar a millones de latinos a vivir con miedo. ¿Veremos más padres esposados frente a sus hijos y trabajadores detenidos mientras cosechan nuestra comida? Ahora tenemos que cargar nuestros pasaportes como si ser latino fuera un crimen. Esto es el racismo que va mano en mano con el fascismo. In my America, we all belong.
You know, I kind of find it funny. Wobbles, what the fuck does it? It doesn't make sense, Wobbles. If the white man tried to steal that shit from you, and then wants to get rid of us, how do you explain that? If we're supposedly on their side. Because none of this is happening to you. It's happening to us. South Sudan repatriates Mexican man deported from U.S. This came up 2 days ago. Okay? I did not know this. Mexican man deported from U.S. and sent to South Sudan returned to Mexico on Saturday, according to Sudanese officials. Ambassador Apuk Ayuil Mayen, spokesperson for South Sudan Ministry of Foreign Affairs, confirmed that Jose Jesus, or whatever, J. Jesus Munoz Gutierrez, smooth and orderly departure during a press conference at Juba International Airport on Saturday. Munoz was released in custody of the Mexican ambassador designated to the South. Seriously? Seriously?
Donald Trump has promised.
This ain't happening to you, Wobbles. If you were supposed to be the original people, why wouldn't they be doing this shit to you? Getting rid of you? Because supposedly they want to take the heritage from you. Come there and getting rid of you.
The largest deportation program in American history. So, what does mass deportation in the U.S. actually look like? In 1954, President Eisenhower approved a mass deportation program called Operation Wetback. I am not kidding you, that is what they called it. Border Patrol agents used military-style tactics, and not just on illegal immigrants. The government raided Mexican-American neighborhoods, invaded homes in the middle of the night, demanded ID from Mexican-looking citizens, and harassed Mexican-owned businesses. And even before that, during the Great Depression, the U.S. government deported 1 million Mexican immigrants. But it turned out an estimated 60% of those were U.S. citizens. During Operation Wetback, it took about 1,000 Border Patrol agents to deport an estimated 300,000 to 1.3 million people. If the government wanted to deport the 13 million undocumented people here today, we'd have to hire between 220,000 and 400,000 new government employees. So, did you know about this history?
But, you know, they have a very different economic mentality. This is the reason why they do it, fam. This is why I'm disgusted by everybody that helps these people.
Detained generates $134 per day, not for their care, for corporate profit. Two companies control 80% of private detention, Core Civic and Geo Group. Combined revenue last year, $4.8 billion. Their biggest customer, your tax dollars. If you think prison is about justice, hit follow for the receipts. Here's the business model. ICE sets a quota. 34,000 beds must be filled daily. Not based on crime, not based on need, based on contracts. Empty beds mean lost money, so ICE finds bodies to fill them. Geo Group CEO makes $5.6 million annually. During COVID, while detained people died without medical care, Geo spent $2.5 million lobbying Congress for more contracts. It worked. They got $1.9 billion in new deals. But here's the deeper hustle. These companies don't just run facilities. They provide ankle monitors at $5 to $25 per day, transportation services, even the phone calls, $1 per minute to call your lawyer. Every aspect monetized. The counties get paid too. Sheriffs lease empty jail space to ICE. Rural towns facing budget crises suddenly have a revenue stream. All they need is bodies. Between 2018 and 2020, these companies donated $1.7 million to political campaigns. The return on investment? Biden promised to end private detention. Today, over 79% of ICE detainees are still in for-profit facilities. When politicians talk immigration reform, watch their donors. Core Civic and Geo Group shareholders don't profit from solutions. They profit from crisis. The detention system isn't broken. It's a business, and business is good. Every migrant detained generates
day laborers and farm workers Here's what we know. Although it may be illegal to employ undocumented immigrants, the government is the one profiting most off of their labor. The detention centers used by ICE offer work programs which pay $1 a day for 8 hours of labor. This work includes operations necessary to keep the detention centers running, such as cooking, cleaning, and repairs. These centers are owned and operated by for-profit private companies such as Geo Group and CoreCivic, who make billions of dollars off of their facilities and donate that money back to Republicans through PACs. Last year, both the founder and the CEO of Geo Group made $11,600 contributions to Trump's Save America Joint Fundraising Committee, and the subsidiary of the company contributed $1 million to Make America Great Again, Inc. Meanwhile, detainees are often charged high markups if they try to use their wages. For instance, a can of tuna from a commissary goes for $3.25 according to detainees, while a 4-ounce tube of toothpaste costs $11. A day of work is enough for a 1-minute phone call, and if loved ones want to fund a detainee's commissary account, they may be charged a 10% fee. In one lawsuit, Geo is alleged to have engaged in labor trafficking by threatening detainees with solitary confinement if they do not participate in the work program. Although the company was denied governmental immunity for its operations, SCOTUS is set to review whether or not Geo can appeal the ruling. This story is ongoing. Follow us to stay informed. Why does ICE target so?
See? Anyways, I was gonna show you a video earlier. I told you I would play it at the end. I've been meaning to share this, man. I mean, sometimes I listen to these ladies, but you know, the president every now and then, bro, people say some shit better than I can. And I'm gonna give these white women a moment for now. Because I think that they made a lot of good fucking points. And I'm glad that they're calling out their own Cracker Barrels. So if you feel offended because these white women are speaking on my channel, man, I'm sorry. I just for once I kind of would like to hear that shit talk. Because they made a lot of good points. Especially when it comes to like why they're doing what they're doing. They want to do, you know, shootings towards anybody that's brown looking, bro. So thank you, ladies, for doing what you did.
Of the United States. He's a convicted felon. He's an adjudicated rapist. He is clearly suffering from dementia, cankles that are like super wide, puffy, teeny tiny little hands with all these bruises all over him. This is not a sane person. And to prove this point, this is what the president of the United States, you used to be able to say that, and it could have been a Republican or a Democrat, but by saying that, it didn't come with an eye roll. And now it comes with this horrific, cringy eye roll because the president of the United States, Kanks, short for Kinkles McTaco Tits. We want to bully the shit out of this guy as much as possible because that's what he does to the most marginalized people in this country. Here's what he puts on Lie Social. I love the smell of deportations in the morning. Chicago about to find out why it's called the Department of War. And then there's a photoshopped picture of him, which according to Jesse Waters, real men don't Photoshop their photographs, but Kanks does it all the time. Shypocalypse now. Like this guy's some badass. I mean, if this guy were even remotely, I would say even 500 yards away from active combat, I don't think there's a diaper big enough that could contain how badly this guy would shit his pants. Well, J.B. Pritzker keeps fighting for us and he keeps popping back. The president of the United States is threatening to go to war with an American city. This is not a joke. This is not.
It's like, how is that any different than Lord Loomer saying, oh, I can't wait to feed these illegal aliens to animals? I love the smell of deportation in the morning. What the fuck does that even mean, Cracker Barrel? Cracker Barrel, explain it to me. What does deportation in the morning fucking smell like? Like, what are you saying? Like, what are you sniffling in these people's nutsacks and shit? Like early in the morning? What? Oh my dear Jesus. Y'all are nasty fucking pedo bastard, Edomite, dumb ass canker barrels.
Normal. Donald Trump isn't a strong man. He is a scared man. Illinois won't be intimidated by a wannabe dictator. And he ran on this, you guys. He said, I'm going to fight the enemy from within. And that means anybody who doesn't like him or anybody who didn't vote for him. That's who his enemy is. Not Vladimir Putin, not Kim Jong-un, not Xi, Americans. This is really what's new.
You know what? I do want to admit, I think that's what caught my attention of this video because this lady made a good point. He ain't attacking like other foreign countries like Putin and all them bastards and shit. Even though that shit's going on kind of crazy over there in Ukraine, right? Supposedly that You know, their teammates, Ukraine and America and all the EU. But not, he's really attacking you guys. You that believe in your 1776 Constitution. He's spitting all over that shit.
Not Vladimir Putin, not Kim Jong-un, not Xi, Americans. This is really what's new about this is an American president that wants to actively go to war against American citizens.
Which is why I'm so glad that this video that I showed you guys. Where you at? Man, did I move it? The one where he's talking about being cursed. It's like, you guys are cursed, man. You lost your minds. You lost your minds. This is why these things are happening to you, and you don't understand why it's happening to you. You lost your mind.
Citizens in blue cities. And he's not even trying to hide it.
Yeah. And is it about crime? Because all we've heard about is he needs to go because of the crime. But then now it's the deportations. So which is it? He doesn't give a shit why he's going. He wants a blue city with a black mayor, in my opinion. He wants to keep the midterms from happening. He wants to prop himself up as a Putin. And it is so alarming. Every single person should be alarmed. And I'm not even going to touch how undignified that picture is. But it gets me every time.
Okay. And then you guys, it gets worse. So his number 2 in command, as everybody knows, is Smokey Eye Sociopath, who for spite we call Lil Smokey. And the pun is intended in that. Smokey for the eye and little because little dick energy from this guy. So the United States of America, you guys, bombed and took out a boat that was going from Venezuela, I guess, to the United States of America. Who knows where it was going? We'll never know because it was bombed. And here is the way Little Smokey presents this on Twitter. Killing cartel members who poison our fellow citizens is the highest and best use of our military. Brian Krasenstein responds, killing the citizens of another nation who are civilians without any due process is called a war crime. J.D. Vance responds to him and says, I don't give a shit what you call it.
The same, that's not even his real name, but the same fuckface fat fucker, you know what I'm saying, that he would never pick up that shit himself. So listen to this. Killing cartel, you can't confirm that they were. Like 11 people on that boat carrying a bunch of drugs, that makes no sense. If anything, like a smart drug trafficker, you know, like it's just logical fucking common sense. You would have less people because they weigh a lot and more weight. So what, 2, maybe 3 people on the boat and the rest is just, you know, pounds. This was just an example of how they're going to start treating you, gente. What is going on in Gaza is going to happen here. Let's see if these negros continue. Let's see if these negros laugh at that. See what they say. And then at that point, now you know there's going to be an uproar.
This is the sitting vice president of the United States of America. And for 8 years, Fox News lost their goddamn minds because they said Obama was trying to be a king. This is moral collapse of the highest order. But let's talk a little bit about Lil Smokey. Lil Smokey wrote a book, Hillbilly Elegy, about the opioid epidemic that has plagued the United States of America. His mother, an opioid addict in recovery now. And never do you hear these people talking about going after big pharma.
No.
So by their logic, can you just bomb the Sackler family? Should you just bomb these pain management clinics? Should you really get strict? No, they don't do it. They don't care. This hits hard because Venezuelans are brown skinned. And in an interesting twist of this, a lot of this is the birth child of Senator Marco Rubio. Former senator, now Secretary of State, and he has like 3 other jobs because that's how badly he's capitulated. Marco Rubio was confirmed 99-0 through the Senate. And I always think back on that because it shows you how unserious the Democrats are to fighting fascism. For me, I would think a senator would think, if this guy can triple Trump, if this guy can serve for a man that started an insurrection against the United States of America, whose supporters wanted to kill the vice president of the United States of America, we need to think about Lil Marco's judgment. It should have been the opposite of that. The Democratic Party from the jump should have started voting no to every single one of these things. They need to defund the government. They need to get as serious as possible because these diabolical sociopaths are dead serious on the demise of this country.
Well, firing on that boat, there was no evidence. They're saying, oh, it's a drug boat, but we don't know that. They could say that. Trump wants to start a war with Venezuela. And here's the thing. When you look at J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio 10 years ago, we've got America's Hitler. He's the con man. And now, because they have no conviction and the only thing they pledge their loyalty to is power, and they are sitting there and they are embarrassing themselves and the American brand. And J.D. Vance, I think he thinks he can play the tough guy really well, but he is so inauthentic and he's just such a low-ris dick that it comes off like he's a nut. Like he comes off every bit as crazy as Trump. And I know his problem is not dementia. It's straight up no conviction for anybody but himself.
But it's more than just embarrass themselves. They're killing people.
And it's crime. These are crimes.
These people are killing people. They don't give a shit about addiction. They do not give a shit about addiction.
Let me skip this real quick because I want to get to this part. This is where I just like, wow, what the fuck? So, it's like, Cracker Barrels, bro. You Cracker Barrels, you guys go for like slogans. You always go for slogans. That's how you like rap music. You like shit that sounds good. It may not make sense, but you like the shit that sounds good. Fucking dumb. I'm glad that you are cursed. And I'm glad that I'm not part of that shit. And I'm so glad that my gente is not part of that shit.
Just listen to this.
Restoring victory and clarity as an end state. Restoring intentionality to the use of force. So at your direction, Mr. President, the War Department is going to fight decisively, not endless conflicts. It's going to fight to win, not to lose. We're going to go on offense, not just on defense. Maximum lethality, not tepid legality. Violent effect, not politically correct. We're going to raise up warriors, not just defenders.
You guys, this is like regressive inner child issues, cosplaying. What's so fascinating to me.
Listen, it shows that you Cracker Barrels, bro, you guys are weak fucking people, man. All you men, you are weak people, bro. The only way you feel this powerful is if you have a fucking gun in your hand. Like, you don't say this shit without that shit. Like, you don't even say this with a knife. You don't even say this with a bow and arrow. You got to have an AK-47 for you to say this shit. Cracker Barrel weakness.
About the MAGA movement is like, if you were to go and talk to a therapist in any country and say, yeah, if I don't support it blindly and I think that we should kill people, all these things, that therapist is probably going to think you need to be institutionalized. And we have this effect of all of these Americans that go along with this, that hear this, that claim to be good Christian folk. And they hear that talk about, maximum violence and maximum lethality, and they have a Pavlovian reaction to it. Their mouths salivate. So they go to church on Sunday and they pray to their Lord Jesus Christ. And then they go and vote for a political party that does the exact opposite of all of the things that the central character of this religion does. And they like it. I mean, there is a cruelty that has been re-released.
That's all I wanted to show you on this. Anyways, all right, let me remind you of this real quick, and then we're almost done, fam. We're almost done.
So many day laborers and farm workers. Here's what we know. Although it may be
show this. Hold on, let me see this.
Donald Trump has promised the largest deportation program.
Let me see.
Whatever else.
Oh, yeah, okay. That's the last one. Okay, sounds good. All right, so we got this here. We got this out the way.
In Trump's America, we do not.
Oh, yeah. Let's play it one more time.
You mentioned that I have a European Y chromosome. So that's my father's lineage. I have a European Y chromosome. My father's line is of European ancestry. In fact, my great grandfather was European. My great grandfather was European in Georgia. And I knew that before I actually did the testing. Once I did the Y chromosome test, I found that Lo and behold, I didn't have a African Y chromosome. I had a European Y chromosome. I didn't have a African Y chromosome. I had a European Y chromosome. So it confirmed the oral history in my family. Whether I had a Y chromosome from Europe or not, it didn't matter. Whether I had a Y chromosome from Europe or not, it didn't matter.
So I'm getting tired of people constantly saying black Americans were slaves and people being taught history the wrong way. One of the first slave owners in America was a black man. A lot of slave owners were black people. And they owned white people. And they also owned Native Americans. They even had to make a law for us to not enslave white people anymore in early America. It's just a history that isn't taught because the colonizer didn't want the black Americans to have a sense of pride, to know that we were actually ruling something. They changed the school system late 1800s, early 1900s, and erased the history of what was actually going on in the 1500s, in the 1600s, even the 1700s, and some of the 1800s in America.
That they couldn't have that much power, or else there wouldn't have been no laws to pass that you guys couldn't buy white people anymore. Do you get what I'm saying? So there was laws that were balanced for white folks, Negroes like you with nappy hair and shit, Jews claiming to be Jews, Sephardics, Swarti, light skin, Muslims, Islams, all that fucking bullshit. Y'all were all the way over here. This is why we still have your religions. So every single one of you guys had equal power. Not the natives, not our gente, not the people from here.
We owned slaves too. A lot of us were even the colonizers. They just hid that history because they just want you to think black people have always been a slave and all this other stuff. It is not what you think. So soon I'm going to make a video on early when we were actually running things in America. We actually ran America at a point. We actually ran certain parts of America. The history is just hidden. So later, probably today or tomorrow.
Hey, he never did that. Anyways, all right. So let me finish it with this. I think this is very interesting. Actually, no, this is not it. Is this it? No, that's not it. Oh, man. That sucks. All right. Well, sorry. The one that I wanted to show you was a lot shorter than that. Because I don't think you want to sit there and listen to about an hour and change of some shit. I mean, even though he makes some good points on that video, I had another one in mind. So now let me show you this right here. I think this is important, family. Thank you very much for sticking around, man. Sorry, an hour and a half. You know what I mean? You know how I am. I try to prolong some shit. Have a good night. I will be doing a class pretty soon. I am still on topic. I am still going to tackle this right here, part 2. I'm going to do part 2 on this. Okay. But anyways, I'm not going to do that until after this fight over here. This fucking bastard's going to get knocked out. And all his butt buddies. Anyways, y'all have a good night after this, man. All right? Have a good night. Take care.
A finales de enero de 1900, la dictadura de Porfirio Díaz deportó desde Sonora a Yucatán a 250 viudas yaquis con sus hijos. Eran sobrevivientes de la masacre de Mazocoba, en la que tropas del Ejército Federal reprimieron a los yaquis que, encabezados por Juan Maldonado Guashuequia, conocido como Tetaviate, resistían los intentos de las élites sonorenses por despojarlos de sus tierras. En el libro Testimonios de una mujer yaqui, Ricarda León recordó las palabras de su madre.
No nos mataron a todos, porque ya no tenían balas los rifles.
El de las viudas fue el primer acto de un destierro obligado que afectó hasta 15,000 yaquis, enviados a trabajar en condiciones de esclavitud a Yucatán, Campeche, Oaxaca y Veracruz, en su mayoría usados como mano de obra forzada en la producción de henequén. Miles más tuvieron que emigrar hacia Arizona en los Estados Unidos o refugiarse en la Sierra de Bacatete para sobrevivir. Desde la colonia, el pueblo Yoeme como asimismo se denominan los yaquis, luchó por su autonomía, pero durante las últimas décadas del siglo XIX y principios del siglo XX padeció una guerra de exterminio. Bajo el liderazgo de José María Leiva, Cajeme, los yaquis se sublevaron a mediados de la década de 1870 para resistir el despojo de su fértil territorio, que además de ser su hogar, es un espacio sagrado. Aunque Cajeme fue ejecutado en 1887, los yaquis no cesaron en la defensa de su tierra. Para doblegarlos, el gobierno porfirista se ensañó particularmente con las mujeres, a quienes consideraba responsables del espíritu guerrero de la tribu. Como señaló el militar Francisco P. Troncoso,
las mujeres yaquis acompañan a los hombres en las guerras. Sufren con ellos toda especie de fatigas y de privaciones. Los excitan para el combate.
Las mujeres que fueron deportadas al sur, a principios del siglo XX, vivieron todo tipo de vejaciones desde su captura y durante su duro traslado en barco y en ferrocarril. En su libro La sucesión presidencial, Francisco Ignacio Madero dio cuenta de la cruenta situación de las yaquis.
Mujeres hubo que, viéndose arrancar de su suelo natal, separadas de sus maridos y quizás de sus mismos hijos, se arrojaron al mar, prefiriendo la pronta muerte entre las ondas amargas a los espantosos sufrimientos de la esclavitud.
Pese a las condiciones inhumanas, miles de yaquis sobrevivieron a la deportación gracias al tesón de las mujeres, quienes además de trabajar de sol a sol en los campos, cuidaron enfermos, alimentaron a los desterrados, criaron a los más pequeños y mantuvieron viva su lengua y su cultura. Al aproximarse el estallido de la Revolución Mexicana, emprendieron el retorno a sus tierras, caminando durante meses y recogiendo en el camino a decenas de huérfanos. Las mujeres yaquis, tanto las que se refugiaron en las sierras como las que sobrevivieron al destierro, se convirtieron en las guardianas de la memoria, transmitiendo sus recuerdos de generación en generación. Su arma más poderosa, corazón de la resistencia centenaria del pueblo yoeme, es nunca olvidar.
That shit is real. I wanted to, matter of fact, let me play this for you because I should have played it and I honestly forgot. Hold on, let me see if I can play it here.
Las guerras modernas.
Let me play this and I'm gonna look for the video. Because you guys need to be aware of what the fuck's gonna happen next. Listen to what he's saying.
En el mundo se basan exclusivamente en matemáticas, se hacen desde computadores muy cómodos en oficinas de Nueva York y de Washington, mientras las bombas caen en realidad sobre la cabeza de bebés en Gaza. Por eso prohibí las exportaciones de carbón a Israel, porque con ese carbón hacen bombas. Y voy a ser más radical y lo voy anunciando. Está bloqueado el Consejo de Seguridad del que vamos a ser parte en enero, Colombia, de Naciones Unidas. Cualquier idea de paz, Estados Unidos la bloquea. Terriblemente. Y es la mayor potencia militar del mundo, dicen. Y entonces solo hay un camino. Si se nos quiere respetar el derecho a la humanidad de exigir que se acabe el genocidio en Israel, que el señor Duque aplaude, porque ya está acostumbrado al genocidio en Colombia. Y la manera es que Naciones Unidas en asamblea, por mayoría, vote la constitución de una fuerza armada de paz que entre a Palestina, y en donde Colombia debe participar. Y esa propuesta la llevaremos como Colombia, el país de Bolívar.
What he's saying, that he's putting together a Fuerza Armada de Paz, Armed Forces of Peace. You know, like how the U.S. called themselves Defense of War? Well, Armed Forces of Peace. And they're going to go create this, I guess, army to go into Palestine and fight Israelis.
al seno de la Asamblea de las Naciones Unidas. Si no, no nos van a respetar y seguirán matando niños y niñas en Gaza hasta exterminarlos. Y la humanidad no puede dejar que exista un genocidio, porque las bombas que caen en Gaza también caerán en Bogotá y en Caracas y en Quito y en Buenos Aires. Es una guerra de la codicia contra la vida, y la vida tiene que ganar por todos los medios posibles.
All right, so what I'm gonna do, bro, I'm just gonna let it play, man. I think this guy makes excellent fucking points. He's a professor, and I think he's gonna blow your mind.
Today, we are going to discuss some extremely controversial topics. And because this is going to go on YouTube, there are certain words I cannot say. So just to warn you, I will write down these words, but I will not say them, because if I do say them, then I will get censored on YouTube. Today, we're going to look at how evil triumphs. Why is the world so evil? And there's going to be a lot of extremely disturbing topics we're going to discuss. But you're mature, and it's important that we discuss these topics in order to understand how the world works. So let's just start. And we will do a lot of speculation and theorizing in this class. So do not take this as gospel. Do not believe this is the truth. The entire point of this class is to help you develop the theories and the ideas to better understand the world. These are tools. Okay, this is not truth. These are tools. All right. So the first question I have for you is, what is happening in Israel? Right now, as you know, Israel is besieging, bombarding Gaza. You might have seen the videos on social media. It is disturbing. It is terrible what is happening. The word that is happening, the word that we use for what is happening in Gaza is this word. You are not allowed to say this word on YouTube, but that is the intention. What I will argue, though, is that the truth is far more disturbing than this. What is really happening in Gaza is a ritual sacrifice. And this happens quite often in human history. If you go back and you look at the real history of humanity, this happens quite often. Some of the most famous examples are the Aztecs. We've dug up temples of the Aztecs, and inside the temples are thousands and thousands of human skulls. So before they went to war, they practiced human sacrifice. They would commit mass murder of their enemies in public. So the Aztecs were really famous for this. The Phoenicians, specifically the Carthaginians. We will discuss them later this semester, but the Phoenicians were also famous for a particular type of sacrifice, which is child sacrifice. The Romans wrote histories insulting the Phoenicians for practicing this sort of sacrifice. But the Romans themselves practiced human sacrifice. What they would do is that after every major war, they would capture all the major leaders, all their enemies, and they would parade their enemies through the streets of Rome. This is something called a triumph. At the end of the triumph, they would gather enemies at the temple of Jupiter. Jupiter is their god. And then they would strangle to death their enemies. That's sacrifice. That's human sacrifice. They didn't call it that, okay? And they sort of disguised it, but we know for a fact that they did do this. So the question for us is, why is it that this happens? Why do the Aztecs do it? Why do the Phoenicians do it? Why do the Romans do it? And why is it today the Israelis do it in Gaza? And remember, okay, what the Israelis are doing is quite horrific because it is really this sort of sacrifice. Why? Because 47%, almost half of the population of Gaza is under 18 years old. So the majority of people who are getting killed are in fact children. What is most striking or blatant about what's happening in Gaza is that we can all see it for ourselves. And it's almost as though the Israelis want us to see it and want us to hate them. Right? You can see all over the world, popular opinion is turning against Israel. You have these popular protests all around the world protesting what is happening in Palestine. If they really want to do this, right, there are actually much more effective ways of doing this. For example, you could just poison their water. Or you could poison the air so that everyone in Gaza gets a fast cancer, right? We have the technology to do this. So Israel could do it this secretly, and no one would talk about it. And in 20 years' time, 30 years' time, the population of Gaza would all be gone. It would be a very secret, right? Instead, they choose to do this in front of the world. And my argument to you is that this is intentional. They want the world to hate them. Because by doing this, they create the ultimate taboo, right? We find this disgusting and contemptuous, so the entire world will unite against Israel. But guess what? That's what their religion wants. In the extreme form of Jewish eschatology, or the religion, they believe that at the end of the world, Israel will fight the entire world, and God will help Israel triumph in the end. So what's really happening in Gaza is that there are extremists within the Israel government who want to accelerate the process of the end of the world, where Israel will face the world. And if you think about it, the entire idea of this ritual sacrifice is to unite the Israeli population. And what's extremely disturbing and horrifying about it is that this works. Why? Well, let's use an analogy, okay? The analogy is this. In Chinese history, the most popular military stratagem is to fight with a river behind your back. You guys have heard of this strategy, right? Where, okay, an army is losing, okay? It's being scattered by the enemy. So what the general does is forces the army to retreat to a river. And now with a river blocking your escape, you have a choice. You can either drown in the river, or you can fight to the death. And most soldiers will choose to fight to the death. And so at this point, the soldiers are unified, they're galvanized, they're energized, and then they find a surge of energy to go and destroy their enemy. Okay, this is the most popular military stratagem in ancient Chinese history, and guess what? It's the same as Israel doing this right now in Gaza. It's the same logic. Yes, you have a question?
So what is a river for Israel?
Yeah, that's a good question. What's a river right here, right? The river is a taboo, right? What's the worst thing you can do in modern society? Killing children, guys, right? So there's no exit for Israel. You either go all the way, or the world comes and destroys you anyway. And in fact, what's really interesting is that if you go online, you will see Israelis go around the world and causing trouble everywhere. They're going to start fights. They shout death to the Arabs on public buses in the Western world. It's intentional. They want to unite themselves by dividing the world, by angering the world. Okay? Does that make sense? All right. So this is all very disturbing, and I want to slowly unpack, reveal to you how this works. Okay? So to do this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a thought experiment. The thought experiment is this. Let's just say that there's an island. We don't know where the island is, but it's an island. And there's no escape from the island. And on the island, the center, it's a hill, and it's safe. But everywhere else, you have these flesh-eating monkeys roaming everywhere. Okay? The problem is that on this island, the resources you need to survive, trees, food, and rivers, the monkeys are there. Okay? There's one safe spot in the center, but everywhere else, if you want resources, you have to go fight these monkeys. They're flesh-eating monkeys. They want to kill you, they want to eat you. And there's an infinite number of them. Now, let's just say that one day, for whatever reason, okay, we don't know why, but 100 men, aging, and they range from 15 to 65 years old, okay? They are mysteriously transplanted onto this island in a safe spot. They come from different countries. They do not speak the same language. They are of different ethnicities. They are all poor people in their countries. They don't have much education. So they're there, and they realize quickly that the situation is utterly hopeless. There's no escape from this island. These monkeys are everywhere, and they are tough warriors. And the situation looks bleak. They don't even speak the same language. They don't have a common culture. So at this point, you would imagine that they would feel hopeless and just lie down and die. But in reality, what happens is the opposite. What happens is that in this hopeless situation, they find a drive, a purpose, a spirit to fight for each other. And what will happen really quickly, okay, and this is really interesting, is the first thing that they will do is they will develop a common language. They don't speak the same language. Some speak Chinese, some speak English, some speak Spanish, some speak Russian, doesn't matter. They will very quickly develop a common language. And then what they will do is, with this common language, they will start to tell each other stories of where they come from. And then these stories will become a common myth, a founding myth of why they're here. And they come to believe that God has chosen them to save the world, and that's why they're here. Then what they will do is, with this new religion, they will start to develop rituals to reinforce this religion. These rituals include sex. Okay? So these men will have sex. And the reason why is to create intimacy and bonding among them. And there'll be a lot of religious rituals as well. Another thing that they will do is pick a leader. There's 100 of them. They need a leader to organize them. And so we can imagine that during the leadership election, everyone gets up to speak. Now, the man who's 65, he is wise. He has experience. He has strategies. So he delivers a very powerful speech, inspiring everyone and telling people how they can survive against the flesh-eating monkeys. Okay, so he's really smart. Then suddenly you have a man up here who's 15 years old, or 16, or 17, okay? He is not articulate. He has no ideas. But what he does is this. He stands in front of everyone, and he's bold, and he's brave, and he looks at everyone without saying a word. He shows them his hand, okay? He shows them his hand. And then from his pocket, he takes out a knife, okay? And then he cuts off his hand in front of everyone. And he does not cry. He just looks at everyone as though nothing happened. Let me ask you this question. Who does everyone pick to be their leader? The second person, obviously, right? The man who has shown sacrifice and commitment and devotion to everyone else. The old man has ideas, and he will become the advisor to the leader, but the leader is the man who is most willing to die for everyone else. And so in this situation, the bravest among them will come and emerge as the leader. And as such, what will happen is that these people, these men, will become extremely inspired and devoted. Even though they are weak, they will learn to become strong. Even though they are poor and uneducated, they will learn to be wise and clever and strategic. They will radically transform themselves. And ultimately, what will happen is the idea of cohesion. Cohesion like brothers, cohesion like a family. They will understand each other, even though they're from different cultures, even though they have different backgrounds. They will understand each other better than they understand their own children and their own wives. And this cohesion will lead to something called synchronicity. Synchronicity. Synchronicity is when people act in unison together. Okay? So a very simple example of synchronicity is a sports team, right? When you watch a soccer match, how is that soccer team able to work together? Well, because of synchronicity, because their minds are alike. It's what we call a hive mind. And this allows for something called telepathy. They're able literally to think and act as one. So let me give an example of this. Let's just say like these men, they're sleeping, but one is off to collect wood. And then he's attacked by monkeys. It doesn't matter if he screams because he's too far away. Would his comrades know that he's in danger? They would. Okay? And the example here is, let's just say you're a mother and you have children, okay? And one of them goes off to France on vacation. But then while he's in France, he gets hit by a car and he's hospitalized. Would you as a mother know that your son is in danger? Would you feel it? He hasn't called you. You don't know about this, but in your heart, would you know it? The answer is yes, you would know it. You would feel something is wrong. You would get on the phone and try to call your son. You can't reach your son, you would call the police. Okay? You don't know what's happening, but something in your heart is telling you, I need to get in touch with my son. Okay? And that's how the hive mind works. That's how synchronicity works. Let's look at another example. Let's just say that one day there's 10 of you and you're all collecting wood. And then suddenly you're attacked by 100 flesh-eating monkeys. There's a bridge that you've created, okay? It's a rope bridge. 9 get across the bridge, all right, but you're the last person, okay? And all the monkeys are about to descend on you. And you know that if the monkeys get across, your comrades are dead. So what do you do in this situation?
Sacrifice for
Yeah, you cut the rope, okay? You die. You didn't think about it. You just kill yourself because what matters is not your life. What matters is the family. What matters is the team. And we know about this because in war, what often happens is in trench warfare, the enemy will throw a grenade into the trench, right? There's not enough time to pick up that grenade and throw it away. So what soldiers do is they will jump on the grenade and absorb the explosion, thus killing himself. It happens instantaneously. No one thinks about it. You just do it because what matters is saving your comrades. And this is what happens. Okay? A synchronicity develops where it's almost as though you're able to read each other's minds. And they keep on doing this for like 10, 20 years. And then suddenly, okay, let's continue with thought experiment. Suddenly, you are transported back to the real world as though nothing happened. But you have memories of what happened. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, you've experienced 20 years of hell on Monkey Island. You've developed the capacity to work together. You have a hive mind. You're really energized. You're really inspired. You're really driven. You have a new religion all to yourself. Now, suddenly, you're all transported back to your real world, your old life. Okay? Now what would happen? Well, what would happen is that the 100 of you would want to come together again, right? And you would share your experience, your rituals, your religion with your children and your grandchildren. And quickly, over time, what will happen is that you guys will conquer the world. You will become the secret elite. The world is yours. There may be presidents, there may be famous people, but secretly, you're the ones who are in control. Your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren will inherit this legacy, and they are the ones who truly control power in the world. Does that make sense? All right. Yeah, question here.
If this person really transferred back to the reality, what if that time already have a leader that?
You got to admit that this professor makes a lot of great points, man. The way that he's bringing out not just the historical belief, but the lineage to that assumption, or the leading into that assumption, which is why I have this book, which I've showed you guys before. And it talks about, you know, the cause, the God of the Edomites. Like, this is real facts proving a point. We have documentation showing that people of the North worshipped a certain type of God. And this worshiping type of God, not that one, led them to this point. Yeah, let me continue playing it. Hold on.
All right. So, Sparta. Sparta is one of the most famous military societies in world history. Sparta is a city-state in ancient Greece. And you may have heard of Sparta. A movie about Sparta was made called 300. I'm not sure if you guys have seen the movie 300. But 300 is really about 300 Spartan soldiers who are fighting millions, not millions, but hundreds of thousands of Persian soldiers. Persia is invading mainland Greece. They fight at a place called Thermopylae, the Battle of Thermopylae. And this is a pass into mainland Greece. The Greeks have to hold this position if they are to prevent the invasion. Okay? 300 Spartan soldiers, backed by thousands of other Greek soldiers, make a last stand in this pass. They are overwhelmed by the Persian invasion, and rather than run, like most people, the 300 soldiers make a final stand. Their leader is Leonidas, and he tells them, we will fight to the death. They all fight to the death, and they're all massacred. And the Persians take Leonidas' head, cut it off, and put it on a pike to warn the Greeks, we are merciless. Eventually, the Greeks, inspired by the sacrifice of Leonidas, they will repel the invasion and destroy the invaders. So how do we get this culture? Okay, well, the education system of the Spartans is really interesting. It's really disturbing, actually. So young boys at age 5 and 6, they're taken away from their homes. And they are put in a school run by older boys. Okay, so the older boys are maybe like 10, 11. And so what happens, as you can imagine, is the older boys beat the crap out of the younger boys. Okay? From day one, there's no education. They're not learning anything. All that's happening is the older boys are just beating the crap out of the younger boys. But because this is happening, we call this like hazing, okay? And this happens actually a lot among fraternities and sports teams. When they're getting the crap beaten out of them, it builds solidarity. It builds brotherhood. So these young boys who are 5 and 6, they learn to love each other because only by helping each other can they survive the brutality. Okay? Then what happens is when they become 11, 12, 13, when they hit puberty, this is really interesting, they become mentored, okay? Mentored by an older soldier, an older Spartan soldier who's maybe 28, 29, 30, but he has a family.
Let me bring this to your attention, okay? We're talking about history, Sparta, and about how people believe a legacy and they run with it. Okay, so this is a book called The Saxons in England, A History of the English Commonwealth Till the Period of Norman Conquest, 1876. If you look up the words like this guy, this is the god of these northern people. Thus Wooden, Baldag, Gaet, skilled, safe, ski for Boa gradually found their way into the royal genealogies. One by one, Brutus, Aurelius, Ambrosius. So you get the point, right? Wooden, and then you see the name Gaet. Okay. So this is their history. West Saxons, Anglo-Saxons, kings were arranged in series of 8 names, including always the great name of Wooden. Wooden. Who is this Wooden? Gad, eponymies of the race. These are your northern men, your Europeans, your fucking Germans, you know what I'm saying? Your cracker barrels. These are your cracker barrels. What these may have consisted in among the heathen Anglo-Saxons, we cannot now discover, but many circumstances render it's probable that Wooden, who is in this function, also was the tutelary god. So we see that Wooden was a so-called god, and they called him Mercury. Mercurius is identical with Wooden. So they were calling him Mars, Mercury, you know what I'm saying? All of that Edomite shit, all that white cracker barrel stuff that they enjoy. So let me show you something real quick. The Saxons in England, the divinity of Wooden. Now we know and we've seen that Wooden, he is both in form and fact identical with the North Odin, the German Wotan, the supreme god of the northern race. Of all the northern races, that's Edom. So now I'm going to show you why I know this is Edom. Remember, Wooden is Gaet, right? All right. And this is their books. This is not mine. And the reason why they don't hide, they hide it, but they don't mention it, is because obviously it's historical about them. So Gaet, remember that? Remember Wodan is Gaet in Old North, Gauter in German, cause. A cursory allusion has already been made to Gaet. Probably only another form of Wooden, since in the mythology of the North, Odin is Gauter. See? So now, here's where it gets even more interesting. Who is Kaz? Watch this. Kaz is not only, but the name of the Edomites, fam. Kaz. Cause. Cause. You see that spelling. Cause. Cause. See that? Cause was the national god of the Edomites. Gad, Galtor, Odin, Woden, Kaz, that's the god of the Edomites. And these are people of the north, which are Germans, Anglo-Saxons, West Saxons, Vandals, Franks, Visigoths, all you cracker barrel motherfuckers. You guys are Edomites. And I'm not proving it based on the fucking color that you have and shit. I'm showing you from your own books, from your own gods, from the same shit that you fucking worship. You know what I'm saying? Can't lie to us no more. Wooden. Like, look how many times you can find this damn thing. It's like, look at that right there. Wooden in the Gentile form of a horse. So you can see that he's got a lot of different meanings, definitions. Does wooden, see, we saw that already. Page 32, we saw that too. Here, let me get ahead real quick. The divinity, here goes. Look, check it. The divinity of Wooden is abundantly clear. He is both in form and in fact identical with the North Odin and the German Wotan, supreme god of all the northern races. I am not saying it. And this guy is Kaz, the god of the Edomites. So this, what you could tell, then you could say that the god of the Edomites, meaning the god of the north or the northern races, is Edom. The god of the northern races is Edom. Edom, Wooden, Odin, Kaz. You named him that shit. Gat or Gater. You run away from your forefather, and at the same time you want to act like you have his privilege. You can't have it. You can't have it both ways, you cracker barrels. Can't do that shit no more. This is your father. Call his ass out. Colimus Maximus Mercurium quem Wooden in lingua nostra appelumus. It says here that an Anglo-Saxon noble of royal blood, and thus himself a descendant of the Woodens. An Anglo-Saxon nobleman of royal blood, and thus himself a descendant of Wooden, meaning of Edom. A descendant of Edom. Edom is literally Wooden. Odin, Edom, Wooden. You cannot run away from who you are. I wanted to throw that in there because this is very interesting, man. The way that he's again, this is a professor that's talking about a certain history, but he's also mentioning some things that, you know what, I don't kind of disagree with, man. You know what I mean? Let's go.
They become lovers. They have sex with each other. And this builds group solidarity. Okay, so during hazing phase, these young boys learn to trust each other. They learn how to bond with each other. During the mentorship phase, these...
So my bad. I didn't realize that I had stopped in that section. Let me go back. I think he's talking about some fucking gay shit. Now, look, y'all do what you do, but again, Rome, you Anglos, this is your nature. That's why it's so pathetic that you fight against it so much. You want to pass all these laws to make you stop. Why don't you just stop? That would be a lot better. You know what I'm saying? Why have laws to make you stop? Why don't you just stop?
School run by older boys. Okay, so the older boys are maybe like 10 in Greece. And you may have heard of Sparta. A movie about Sparta was made called 300. I'm not sure if you guys have seen the movie 300. But 300 is really about 300 Spartan soldiers who are fighting millions, not millions, but hundreds of thousands of Persian soldiers. Persia is invading mainland Greece. They fight at a place called Thermopylae, the Battle of Thermopylae. And this is a pass into mainland Greece. The Greeks have to hold this position if they are to prevent the invasion. Okay? 300 Spartan soldiers, backed by thousands of other Greek soldiers, make a last stand in this pass. They are overwhelmed by the Persian invasion, and rather than run, like most people, the 300 soldiers make a final stand. Their leader is Leonidas, and he tells them, we will fight to the death. They all fight to the death, and they're all massacred. And the Persians take Leonidas' head, cut it off, and put it on a pike to warn the Greeks, we are merciless. Eventually, the Greeks, inspired by the sacrifice of Leonidas, they will repel the invasion and destroy the invaders. So how do we get this culture? Okay, well, the education system of the Spartans is really interesting. It's really disturbing, actually. So young boys at age 5 and 6, they're taken away from their homes. And they are put in a school run by older boys. Okay, so the older boys are maybe like 10, 11. And so what happens, as you can imagine, is the older boys beat the crap.
Yeah. I'm glad you fucking called it. Hold on a second, man. I got you, brother. I got you, because I actually had done catamites. I actually done a class on. I think I brought it up. I did a class on it and shit. Check it out. Hold on. Check it real quick, because I like what this professor is saying. I'll give him that title, because that's what he is. He's not a preacher and shit. He's a professor. So catamite, a boy kept by a pederast. So then, what is a pederast? A man who desires and engages in sexual activity with a boy. Fucking perverts. You fucking perverts, bro. That shit is nasty. But see, that's a Roman Greek thing. That's the Anglo-Saxon way.
And they are put in a school run by older boys. Okay, so the older boys are maybe like 10, 11. And so what happens, as you can imagine, is the older boys beat the crap out of the younger boys. Okay? From day one, there's no education. They're not learning anything. All that's happening is the older boys are just beating the crap out of the younger boys. But because this is happening, we call this like hazing, okay? And this happens actually a lot among fraternities and sports teams. When they're getting the crap beaten out of them, it builds solidarity. It builds brotherhood. So these young boys who are 5 and 6, they learn to love each other, because only by helping each other can they survive the brutality. Okay? Then what happens is when they become 11, 12, 13, when they hit puberty, this is really interesting, they become mentored, okay? Mentored by an older soldier, an older Spartan soldier who's maybe 28, 29, 30, but he has a family. They become lovers. They have sex with each other.
Fuck! I'm gonna show you how that shit is, bro. That's fucking nasty, dude. Like, oh my dear Jesus, dog. But you see, you guys are like running away from your own history. It's kind of funny, to be honest with you. Pederasty, I guess, is a sexual relationship between an adult man and an adolescent boy. It was socially acknowledged and practiced in ancient Greece and Rome, elsewhere in the world, such as Meiji. Less frequently, it involved an adult woman and an adolescent girl. Look at that, dude. That's like a bearded dude with a band. That's crazy. Y'all are fucking nasty, bro. But that's why I keep saying, like, you're fighting against your own ways, your own spirit. It's funny, man. Democrats might have brought that, alphabet shit, but these Republicans are bringing this stuff up again, that pedo stuff.
And this builds group solidarity, okay? So during hazing phase, these young boys learn to trust each other. They learn how to bond with each other. During the mentorship phase, these young boys learn to think like in a hive mind, okay? They learn to be part of a larger group. Then when they turn 18, they graduate, okay? And in order to graduate, what they do is this. They have a mission. So the Spartans have slaves called helots, okay? These are just people that they've conquered and who are now work as slaves in the fields for them, okay? They're like serfs. So there are lots of rules governing the Helots. An important rule is curfew. So if it's dark at night, you cannot be outside the house. If you are outside the house at night, you could be executed. Okay, so as a graduation mission, these young soldiers hide in the fields at night. Okay, they hide in the fields and they wait for the sun to go down, so it's now dark. And they look for Helots to come back because they're late. And what they'll do is they'll sneak up behind the Helots and cut their throats. Okay, this is basically sacrifice. Okay, human sacrifice. So the Spartans did this as well. It's a very common thing. And what this does is it builds group cohesion, leading to synchronicity. There are thousands of city-states in Greece. Only Sparta did this. And it made everyone think Sparta was disgusting. Everyone hated Sparta. But it kept Sparta unified. And it made Sparta into the dominant military power in Greece at that time. Okay? What happened then is Thebes, another city-state in Greece, they would copy the Spartan system, okay? But they made it voluntary. So in Sparta, you have to be an elite to be part of the system. But in Thebes, anyone could join the system, okay? And they call the system the sacred band of 300 soldiers. And they were, again, lovers, okay? But this is really important for you guys to understand. At this time in history, there's no concept of homosexuality. It was perfectly permissible. No one cared if you had sex with men or animals or whatever, okay? It was not a big deal. This comes much later in modern times. Back then, homosexuality was not considered a concept, okay? If you're out in the...
You guys know, if you believe that the scriptures were around for a while, that shit is a lie. But for the sake of the, class proof, let's continue. This shit is crazy. Fucking crazy.
The field, if you're out at war for like years and years and there's no woman around, you're gonna have sex with other men. It's a very natural thing to do. Okay, it doesn't mean you're homosexual, okay? So the sacred band.
Okay, maybe you're doing that, though. But let's continue.
Band of Thebes became the dominant military power after Sparta, okay? It's called the sacred band. And they were like the vanguard, they were the spearhead. They would be the first in battle. And they were so ferocious that their enemies would run away, okay? Then what happened is that Macedonia would copy the Theban system. Who's the most famous Macedonian in the world? Do you guys know? Which Macedonian is the most famous ever in human history? You know the name, but you may not know he's Macedonian. Alexander the Great, okay? His father is Philip II. Philip II is the one who actually built the greatest army in the world, the Macedonian army. And it was Alexander the Great, his son, who would take this army and conquer Persia. Okay, we'll learn this later on. But Philip II learned all this from Thebes. And at first, Macedonia and Thebes were allies, but Philip II was very ambitious. So then he wanted to conquer all of mainland Greece. And in 338 BCE, at the Battle of Trachonia, Macedonia fought against the combined might of Thebes and Athens. And Macedonia destroyed Thebes and Athens, okay? Because Macedonia basically copied the system from Sparta and Thebes. At this point, Macedonia should have destroyed the entire Theban and Athenian army. But when all was lost, the sacred band, they stood in the middle of the field and they blocked the advance of the Macedonian charge.
I remind you that the people that practice that shit, let's just kind of prove it. Because that's just still nasty. These are Greeks, right? You said that's what Greeks do. Okay. This is from a Bible dictionary, right? From 1976. It's a little older one. But here is what we get the definition of Idumea. And Idumea says pertaining to Edom in KJV of Old Testament, Idumea, the name used by the Greeks and Romans for the country of Edom. See, Edom. Continue.
So that everyone could escape back into the cities. They did not fear death. They welcomed death. Okay? For them, what mattered was honor and sacrifice. And that's how you create the greatest army in the world. Okay? Does that make sense? So these historical analogies give credence to our thought experiment. Okay, now we're going to look at a question, which is, okay, why does this system work? Okay, so let's do game theory. Game theory. Game theory is just a study of how to win games, okay? It's a very general thing. So let's do a thought experiment and just say there's about 1 million people in the world, okay? There's 1 million people in the world, and they're all trying to win the game against each other, but only one can win. Well, according to game theory, the best way to win a game is by, does anyone know? Cheating, okay? Cheating. If you follow the rules, you will never win the game, you have to cheat. And in this game, the best way to win is by coordinating with other people, right? Because everyone's playing by himself. So if you can work with other people, then that gives you a huge advantage over everyone else, right? The problem with this is the moment that people start coordinating, it forces an arms race of coordination. So maybe these 2 are working together. These 4 now are forced to work together, which now forces these 5 to work together, okay? So if you are the first to work together, you get screwed in the process. So if you cheat, you have to cheat secretly, okay? You have to coordinate without people knowing you're actually coordinating together. You have to conspire secretly, okay? And there are different ways to collaborate secretly, okay? So let's look at examples. So family is one example, right? Of coordination, synchronicity. Another example is religion. If you have a leader, right? If you have a similar race, ethnicity, and you have a similar language. Okay, so these are examples of how you get people to coordinate together. The problem is that these are all obvious to people, which forces them to do the same thing. Okay? But there's a strategy that you can use that allows you to coordinate secretly and defeat all your enemies. And this strategy is called transgression. Transgression. The breaking of taboos, the breaking of social norms, the breaking of social laws. Transgression. Okay, so let's study this concept. All right, so the idea is that, the theory is that the greater you transgress, okay, this is the level of transgression, the greater your cohesion, which leads to synchronicity. Okay, that's a theory I want to propose to you. All right? So transgression, I mean, it's a very simple idea. You're breaking the rules, right? You're cheating. And therefore, everyone wants to put you in prison. Which means that the only way that you can survive is if you keep the secret among your group, right? Which forces cohesion. Does that make sense? All right? And we see this in all aspects of society, right? So the most basic form of transgression is just joking or pranking, right? So for example, you guys, 6 of you, decide, you know what, we're gonna play a joke on the school. We're going to cover all the rooms with toilet paper. It's a joke, it's a prank. But obviously, you don't wanna get caught because the school will punish you. And this joke and this prank will make you more cohesive, right? Because now you have a secret amongst yourself. And if anyone betrays you, you're all screwed, right? Does that make sense? That's the logic. The other thing that's really interesting is that when you transgress, when you break a taboo, you feel empowered. You feel liberated. And it becomes addictive. Right? You fill the school with toilet paper. You're like, that was a lot of fun. Why was it fun? Because you broke the rules. You feel, I'm more powerful than my teacher. So you keep on doing more and more of this stuff. Right? Then you may be like, hey, let's go to the store and steal a candy. That candy may cost $1, nothing, right? But you try it, and you are terrified. You're seized by doubt. You're seized by fear. Sorry, so this is the sound that tells us that we should go on break, but again, we don't go on break in this class, okay? So I apologize. We're not taking a break. We keep on going, okay? But that's what the sound is. Okay, so you're terrified because your mother, your teachers, everyone told you stealing is bad. Right? But when you actually go and do it, how do you feel? You feel energized. You feel liberated. You feel empowered. And if your friends are with you, the friendship becomes much more unified, much more cohesive, much more synchronized. Does that make sense? And now you want to let's break more rules. Let's see what happens if we break more and more rules. And you keep on going because it's addictive. And ultimately, there's a transgression that is the ultimate taboo, which is what? You guys know? Yeah, right? This. Right? Can you think of a more worse transgression than this? That's why they do it. Because it feels empowering. It releases energy. They do it because they believe that when you do this, it releases divine energy. And when you actually do it, okay? Guys, I'm not telling you to go do this, okay? Please do not do this, okay? And please, remember, okay? This is evil. We should not be doing this. But when you actually go and do it, those who can do it, they feel as though they are now inundated, that now they are now filled with divine energy. They found the secret of the universe. They found the ultimate power in the world. Another transgression, which is not as bad, but pretty bad, is the idea of incest, right? And there are secret societies out there, guys, that do this. And you know what, guys? I hate to tell you this, okay? But they do it in public in front of everyone else because that creates both group unity, synchronicity, and it releases in their minds divine energy. They have now access to God. If you want to know what secret societies do, well,
oh, fucking shit. Now, check this out. I want to follow that up with, hold on, let me see. Which one is it? Incest. Okay, this one. I think it's this one. There was a video that I had, and I looked it up earlier. Let me see if I can find it. I looked it up earlier. And it was Charlie Kirk at some college. And he was totally okay with the girl getting raped by her dad. Hold on a second. And it was like totally all right. They clapped to it. Check this out. So now this is making sense. Now this shit, it's like even more. Now I'm like whoa, because check this out. I mean, this is real quick. Where is it at? Oh, here it goes, right here. This is weird. Okay, so. This girl's Charlie Kirk is a scum for this. So check this out. Like, I need you to pay attention. This is fucking nuts. We literally.
The mic to commend and applaud Charlie Kirk at his sort of put a microphone in a public place and start debating people. This is actually kind of hard to watch. I just a trigger warning for, I don't know, however hard this is to watch.
So I wasn't going to.
So this is a young woman who is holding a child who looks to be like 3 or 4. And this is what she says. She's sort of flanked by a bunch of MAGA caps.
So I wasn't going to come up here, but I heard someone talking about how abortions are important because it takes babies out of the population. And I just wanted to say that by saying that, they are wanting to take out very important people. 4 years ago, I was by my father, and I chose not to have an abortion, and this is what came out of it.
They're clapping. They're fucking clapping. They're clapping incest. The fucking dad raped the daughter, you cracker barrel fucking idiots.
They're wanting to take out very important people. 4 years ago, I was by my father, and I chose not to have an abortion, and this is what came out of it.
I'm very sorry that happened to you. And it was a terrible thing that happened to you. What is your message to people that say babies conceived in are not human beings?
Oh, God.
They're absolutely human beings. They're made individual.
Sorry that your dad fucked you. I'm really sorry about that. But what is your positive message to the fact that, I mean, I really can't even explain that. What the fuck is wrong with Cracker Barrels, bro? You are literally saying that it's okay, but you know what? That's your ritual. This is a ritual, family. In our faces. Like they said, they do it in our faces. They do it in our faces.
To watch. I just a trigger warning for, I don't know, however hard this is to watch.
So I wasn't going to.
So this is a young woman who is holding a child who looks to be like 3 or 4. And this is what she says. She's sort of flanked by a bunch of MAGA caps.
So I wasn't going to come up here, but I heard someone talking about how abortions are important because it takes babies out of the population. And I just wanted to say that by saying that, they are wanting to take out very important people. 4 years ago, I was by my father, and I chose not to have an abortion. And this is what came out of it.
I'm very sorry that happened to you. That is, and it was a terrible thing that happened to you. What is your...
Do you think he would say that shit if his daughter got raped like that? Like if his daughter got raped, and you know what I mean? And like, I'm really sorry that happened to you, daughter. But what would be the positive comment coming out of your mouth now that we know that you shouldn't? You know, are you, dude, Cracker Barrel stupidity. I'm glad though that we're finding out who you guys are. Now we know. But let's continue. There's a little bit more than this.
Your message to people that say babies conceived in are not human beings.
Oh God.
They are absolutely human beings. They are made individually by God, and they can do some very important things. I believe that he'll grow up and he'll help people, and based on all of our experiences, we can try and keep them from doing the same thing that their parents did.
I swear.
Hold on. Pause real quick. What the fuck did you just fucking say? Okay, so first of all, not only are we worried of the fact that her father raped her ass, okay? Probably, God, y'all disgusting. But he molested his daughter. And then she goes off and says, well, you know, our job is to make sure that they don't just go do that to their kids.
All of our experiences, we can try and keep them from doing the same thing that their parents did.
What the fuck? So she's like, you know, I just hope he don't rape his kids. That's what she just said.
And based on all of our experiences, we can try and keep them from doing the same thing that their parents did.
So holy shit. This is fucking nuts. From doing the same thing that their parents did. Well, your dad, his dad, raped you, his daughter. And now you're saying, I hope that we can stop them from doing the same thing that their parents did. So then now you got to worry about him being a rapist and shit of his own fucking family. Oh, Cracker Barrel, can I get any smarter or stupider than that?
Same thing that their parents did.
I swear on my life. So now he is using as a prop this young woman who came forward, who is obviously so...
Sorry, I'm not trying to shift you guys from the class, but just wanted to make a point because it's like, for real, I'm glad that he said that this thing, that word, incest, it's historical and it's part of their fucking lineage. It's part of Wooden, Odin, Edom, Wudan, Kaz, yes, all of that shit. You damn fucking Edomites.
Of the universe. They found the ultimate power in the world. Another transgression, which is not as bad, but pretty bad, is the idea of incest, right? And there are secret societies out there, guys, that do this. And you know what, guys? I hate to tell you this, okay? But they do it in public in front of everyone else because that creates both group unity, synchronicity, and it releases in their minds divine energy. They have now access to God. If you want to know what secret societies do, well, yeah. this and this, okay? And again, this is only a small group of people. But now we know why these people control the world. Because they're able to keep secrets. Because they're more motivated than everyone else. And they're able to work together in a way that allows them to achieve ultimate power. These leaders you see, right? These leaders you see, they are puppets. They are just a face. The real power are these secret societies that practice these rituals. And again, I'm not saying this is the truth. I'm just saying this is a possible theory about how the world works, right? Because this is a class of speculation. It's a class of theory. Don't think this is the truth, okay? But you can think about how this works and ask yourself, does it explain the world? Okay? All right. So having explained this, what I want to do now is go into the deep theory as to why this is happening. Okay? So if you talk to these people and they're honest with you, they'll tell you that when we do this, we access God and God gives us divine power because they're superstitious and they're stupid. Okay? Just because they're the elite, just because they're powerful people does not mean they're clever. In fact, they're kind of stupid if you actually meet them. All right? But I'm going to explain how this system works. And when I explain to you, it will make sense. Okay, but are we clear so far about what's happening, guys? All right? I know this is disturbing, and I know I'll probably get banned on YouTube for this, but it's important that we do this, okay? All right, so now I'll explain the theory as to why this is happening. How is it transgression is able to unleash divine energy? Okay, so Kant. We will look at some major thinkers, and they're really deep thinkers, and we'll go more into them this semester, but I'm going to introduce them, okay? So Kant. Remember from the first class, Kant had a theory of how the world works. There is no objective reality that we see, okay? So before, the assumption was that we just absorb reality, okay? But Kant says that we are active. Sorry, we'll wait for this. So Kant says that we are active participants in reality. How? Well, because our brains are filters. We add space and time to reality. Space and time does not exist outside of us, okay? So the objective reality is called noumena, okay? The things in themselves. Do not worry about these names, but this is the objective reality. What happens is that for our filters, we interact with the noumena, and that creates something called the phenomena. The things that we see, the phenomena, okay? And that's the world we know. The noumena we can never ever know. That's the theory of Kant, okay? And this has been confirmed by neuroscience. So this is basically the most accurate model of the world that we have. The problem, though, is that Kant's conception of the world creates three questions. Okay? The first question is, what is a noumena? Kant says we can never know it, but we still want to know it. Okay, that's the first question. Second question then is, who gave us these filters? Right? Where do our filters come from? How do our minds work? And who created our minds in the first place? That's the second question. The third question is, if we are all seeing the world for our own lens, how do we know that we're seeing the same world? How do our perception of the world align together? Okay? So Kant creates these problems. Hegel, who comes after Kant, Friedrich Hegel, by the way, he proposes a solution to these three problems. And what he says is this, and this is really important for us to understand, is the noumena is the Geist. The Geist is hard to translate. We usually translate it to mean spirit. Okay, so what Hegel is saying is that the spirit world is what creates the material world. We are just a shell. What really matters is the spirit world. Now, it's really important to understand the concept of the Geist, okay? And again, it's German, but there's no actual English translation for it. So it's best to see Geist as a combination of three words that derive from Geist. Okay, these three words are ghost, geyser, and gist. Okay? So these three English words are derivatives of the German word Geist. Right? Most words in English are actually German in origin. Sorry, not most words, but many words, okay? All right, ghost is just a parallel reality that exists alongside us, right? A spiritual world. That's the first concept. Geyser is just a force that is exploding or becoming or expanding. So this Geist is constantly expanding and becoming. Gist means the essence of things, the core of things. Okay? So the real truth in the world is the Geist. Not what we see, but what is invisible to us. Okay, so that's the idea of the Geist. Does that make sense? Now with the Geist, we can answer all three questions. The noumena, the real world, is a spiritual world, not a material world. It's the Geist that gives us these filters. And because we're all seeing the world through the Geist, we see the same world. Okay? So now this creates another problem, which is, where did the Geist come from? What is the Geist? Okay? And here we will look at Plato and Dante. Okay? So again, this is a really deep theory, and we'll go more deeply into this as the semester moves. But I just first want to introduce the idea to you right now, okay? So this comes from Plato and a religion called Gnosticism. Okay? The Gnostics. Gnostic just means knowledge. Okay. So in the beginning, the Big Bang, the force is the monad, or the one. There are different names for this thing, or nous. Just think of this as a supreme God, okay? The Big Bang, the force, like the sun almost, okay? The spiritual sun of the universe. The nous works by breathing. When he breathes, he vibrates his divine power. And through this, he creates new beings called dyads. Dyads are just pairs of forces, okay? And these dyads then create different realities, all right? So different realities are being created through this interaction. And eventually, you reach Earth, okay? So in other words, what Plato and Gnostics are telling us is that the Geist is a multi-layer, multi-dimensional world that we access all the time. Okay? Does that make sense? And the Earth, what we see, it is just the most outer shell in this universe. Is this clear to you guys? All right. So now the question then is, what is the purpose of life in the world? And what Plato says is that the purpose of life in this world is to return to the monad. Okay, and guess what, guys? This is actually the framework for a lot of religions, including Hinduism, right, and Buddhism. This is what the Hindus and the Buddhists believe as well. Nirvana is to return to the monad. I'm not sure if you guys have studied religion before, okay? But that's the idea. So what Plato says is that through the pursuit of knowledge, philosophy, the love of knowledge, you can return to the monad, okay? Dante, and we'll study Dante in depth later on, okay? But Dante has another solution. What Dante says is that the monad is love, okay? And the monad, because he creates things, his divine spark emanates throughout the universe, okay? So there is a divine spark in us, and this divine spark is called love. So we are able to love people, mothers love children, you love each other because of this divine spark in you. And the more you love, the more you return to the monad. Okay, so Plato says, pursue knowledge. Dante says, pursue love. Okay? So now the question is, okay, this sounds all very good, but why does evil happen in the world? Okay, what's the source of evil? Right? That's interesting. Okay, you have this theory of the universe, but then the question then is, why do people do bad things then? Why is there sacrifice in the world? Why are people doing all these bad things and not only getting away with it, but they're also controlling the world? That's a big question, right? So for Plato, the answer is very simple. This world doesn't matter. Who cares if they control this world? It's a fake shadow world. Ignore them. Just focus on the pursuit of knowledge because that allows you to be one with the monad. Okay? Who cares about this world? Give them what they want. Give them their power, their fame, their money. Who cares? Dante's answer is actually very interesting. Okay? That's Plato's answer. It doesn't matter. This world doesn't matter. Who cares what happens in this world? It's a prison anyway. Dante actually proposed something different. He says this. If the monad is love, love is trust. So the monad loves us, and as a result, the monad gives us free will. Now, free will can lead to bad things, for example, this world, but he has no choice in the matter. Because for him to interfere means to take away our free will. And free will is his greatest gift to us. Okay? But now and then, what he will do is he will send messengers to our world to remind us that there is a divine spark in us, and we can activate it and achieve a greater consciousness. And these messengers are Plato, Dante, right? Jesus, right? Does that make sense? So now and then the monad will send through the Geist, okay? The monad will implant ideas in these people who will then tell us the truth. But it's our choice whether or not to believe it because the monad has given us free will. All right, so for Plato, what's important is the pursuit of knowledge. For Dante, what matters is the pursuit of love, to love each other unconditionally, okay? And that's what they tell us. What the system also tells us is that the powerful want to deny the system, right? Because if they control Earth, the fake world, they want to make it as real as possible. Does that make sense? That's the source of their power. The belief that the only that matters is the material world, the prison that we live in. And that's why we have science, right? Science is negation of the spiritual world and the validation of the material world. If you cannot see it, it must be fake, right? Okay? So that's how power works. Now, transgression works in this model because transgression allows the powerful to align to a certain part of this universe, okay? Because in this universe, there are evil forces as well. Does that make sense? So for example, the metaphor is, think of the internet, right? Well, there are millions and millions of websites. And through transgression, by doing the same evil act, what the powerful have done is they've locked onto the same website, right? And because they've locked on the same website, it allows for synchronicity. It allows for them to commit, to think alike and to behave the same way. Okay? All right, so that's the general theory. And again, this is all speculation. I'm not telling you this is true, but I'm giving you a framework to work with to better understand why things happen. We're just speculating. We're using our imagination here, right? I know there's a lot, but Kant, Plato, Hegel, Dante, we'll go much more deeper into over the semester. I just introduced these ideas now. Okay, questions, guys? Okay, you had a question from last class, right? Right, so can you ask a question from last class, and I'll answer it first?
All right, from last class, you mentioned that the ones that control society are those old pensioners, right? Because they get revenues from the youngers and they control the society. In our society, I do see signs or phenomena that the government are sort of helping the old pensioners by creating more, say, entertainment or facilities that benefit them. So why is that? Is it possible that the government also benefits from old pensioners' actions, or is actually the governments are controlled by old pensioners?
Yeah, I mean, we discussed this last class, but it's the pensioners, the old people who control society, control the culture, who control government, right? Because in China, from the first day, you're taught to respect your elders, right? You're taught that elderly people are worth emulating, they're worth studying from. They're what's most precious about our society. So it makes sense that the government would create policies to most benefit the elderly. Okay, that's just the structure of Chinese society. Respect for the elderly. Okay, thank you. Any more questions, guys? Yep. Ember has a question.
Okay. So I was just thinking about the model, and I think
the monad.
This model that we have on the board. So like you said, the existence of evil is, if you don't mind repeating yourself.
Oh, yeah, so what is evil?
Yeah.
Okay, in the system.
Mhm.
Okay, so in this system, what is evil is the denial of the system, okay? So because the monad is the truth, it's love, right? So the closer you move to the monad, that's what's good. The further you move away from the monad, that's what's evil, right? So at the very end of this model is earth. So the more you embrace the material world, the more you deny the spiritual world, that's what's evil in this model.
Okay.
So for Plato, what's good is the pursuit of knowledge. And what's evil is the pursuit, the denial of knowledge, which includes, by the way, art, right? Movies. Because movies are just a shadow of the shadow world. If the world we live in is fake, and movies, all they do is depict this fake world, then it makes things worse. Mm-hmm. Okay? And Dante, whatever allows for more love is good. What allows for less love is bad.
Okay. So just to add on to that, so what if, like we mentioned earlier, sacrifice can be considered as a way to unite people. It creates cohesion.
Yeah.
And with
And
cohesion,
it unlocks divine energy because you're accessing a part of this model.
okay.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right?
So,
and that's why, as you're doing this sacrifice, they are worshiping a certain God. Right? So sacrifice is part of their religion. It's not done independently. They have a religious framework for the sacrifice, and that's why they do it. Right? They don't do sacrifice for the personal sacrifice. They do sacrifice as a consummation of their religion, because that's what their religion demands of them. Right? And because so they're worshiping a God, they're sacrificing these people to send to this God.
Okay.
Right? So they're accessing a part of this model, which is a lower part, okay? And there are evil beings in this model as well, right? But they go lower.
So by being evil or like doing the bad deeds, we get, as long as it creates love in Dante's theory, it gets us ultimately closer to the
monad, yes.
But the evil now that we perceive is constructed by our current society. So
Yeah, so what Dante is saying about our current society is that our society is first and foremost anti-love. It does not allow for people to love each other. So for example, school, right? So without school, your parents would just care about your happiness. But because of school, parents care about your grades and whether or not you get into a elite American college and whether or not you get a good job. And so the parents deny your free will. They deny your agency. And as a result, you don't feel loved. Okay? So that's what Dante would argue. Our society is anti-love because the society is constructed in a way that does not allow for normal human relationships to flourish. Right? In a normal relationship, your parents would just let you do whatever you want. I would think, you know? But because they're like, no, if I let you do whatever you want, you will not do well in school, and you won't be able to get a job, and then you become, I don't know, unemployed and a drug addict. Who knows, okay? Right? That's how they think. Does that make sense?
yeah. So the denial of free will is anti-love, and therefore it's evil, and it limits you from getting closer to monad.
That's right.
Okay, great.
Exactly. Thank you. Yep.
Just like the what Amber mentions that this world is anti-love, but what is the purpose of like not letting us get closer to the monad?
Well, that's a good question, right? Why are they doing this? Because the people in power want to stay in power, right? Because what they're doing, it goes against the monad, but they want to stay in power.
So they gain like benefits such as power by disobeying the monad and letting others like disobeying the monad because they can keep their power.
Okay, so let us be very clear, okay? This is really important. Different people will interpret this model in a different way, okay? In their conception, the monad's the evil one. Their God's the good one. They're liberating us from the monad by making us more focused on the material world. Okay, does that make sense? But the reality is that they were able to get their power because they had a religion that promoted transgression, which allowed them to coordinate well together. And now that they have this power, they need to rationalize why they have this power, and they need to develop systems to maintain this power. And that's why we have the world we live in today. Does that make sense? Okay? Does that make sense?
All right, fam. So I'm glad you stuck around. I thought that was important to show. You guys have a good night. I will be doing a class later on this week regarding a lot of these points, getting into real, actual books. The Anglo-Saxon and his sun-worshipping ways. You guys are easily found very confused. Well, you know what? It's almost like, what do you expect? Their parents told them some dumb bullshit. Now they're finding out it's not really the case. So then obviously more than ever, they're offended. And then you got the other bastard that just doesn't understand. They were played too. It still doesn't matter. All right, so let me play one song and that's it. Hold on. A moment. I was looking for it earlier. Here it goes. Have a good night, fam. What the fuck? Hold on. What the hell, bro? I literally just clicked on that. Okay. No, that's not it. Manches way. Hold on, fam. All right, now here it goes. Have a good night.
Every man's heart one day beats its final beat. His lungs breathe their final breath. And if what that man did in his life makes the blood pulse through the body of others, it makes them bleed deeper in something than larger than life, then his essence, his spirit will be immortalized.
You think you know me? Entering the ring like a heavyweight champion. Legendary king like my name is Fred Hampton. Vision of a sniper, Taino in my fibers. I can see the truth, no Roddy Piper. Black brown messiah, one-on-one with the colonizer. Ropes on fire, tombstone power driver. Disciples assemble in Mayan symbols deciphered. Sacred prayers delivered, fulfill fate's desires. As the crowd gets louder, feels wild nostalgic. Lift them up, gorilla press, fearless as a falcon. Catch the BX live on BBC. That's when I hit 3DTs with DDTs. El Patron without Patron. For sovereignty, we work hustles and cross the border like take on the turnbuckle. Hit him with a spear, then a chair. Let him chair, administer my finisher, the signature, and it's severe.
Yeah. Check.
You think you know me?
Abysmal with a pistol. Execute corporatists in front they poverty. I mean, lyrically, I'm twisted, sea demon. Heretic embellishing the savagery repeatedly. Stab a chest cavity. I run with the spirits they burn at the stake. Curse you until death. Like Hod's way, we build raw ambush, mercenary convoys. Fallujah, oh forward, I'm on boy. Fuck Judge Dredd, leave a judge dead. Break down gates of heaven, leave them all red. Yes, the rhythm, the rebel. B-boy, changing levels, shooting for a double. Like a barrel, leave them riddled, let the rodents fiddle. In your vicinity, public enemy smashing. Burn it all down, see what grows from the ashes. Native threat, KF. Hell yeah, they don't know what time it is. Yeah, get this shit.
You think you know
The first infinite earth resistance grew out the 818 with persistence. Grew to the hate they throw with my mission. Born to flip what they did with theirs. I'm only mad cause I care. I'm only mad cause I know what's out there. And it ain't fair. They grab a mask and a spear. I'm unattached to the fear. Fuck I look like sipping on a colonizer beer. Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. Talking about a virus. Y'all act like you got closed eyelids. And what I find is they don't know what the time is. I'm an ancestor, I am timeless. I look within and the answers I find them. I'm not lost, I know the cost. Robbery is haunting me. I'm Undertaker, choke slam the boss. Leave you hung in the ring, I don't give a fuck. And that's what's up, to the day I'm done. Cause no one
escape death. Death's got these focus all around us. And the ancestors are with us. So Hawan, put your feathers on and let them know what's up.
You think you know
This is Danza Azteca ceremony on a campus by the marigold flowers is where we lead the dances. I'm at war with Anglo-Saxons and our weapons have landed. Pre-Hispanic savage and them Yankees in the ashes. It's revenge for the sanctions that they put on Venezuela. En el Tahuantín suyo, el condor vuela. Plumas tied to the blower from a scarlet ibis. My medicine bag carries dreams inside it. Flower making preparation for the day of the dead. The reputation of my nation's what I swore to defend. The promise of death is what the mask represents. The liquor isn't needed to put me at ease. You can't wear my mascara, it belongs to a king. Y'all was taught to love the US, I was raised a little different. I was taught to keep them fucking colonizers to a distance. Them gringo spies wanna know who sent us. You'll have to take my life before you take my feathers.
I'm wide, I'm out on bail. The sheriffs try to unmask me. Sister in arms, Frosty. Talk to him, hermana.
You think you
Ain't
know
got no papers for you to funnel me into your system. Assimilate my soul to psychological prison. Fuck your religion and all the blood on its hands. Your secret cemeteries where the spirits still dance. They offered money for our heads, put targets on our backs. So we lived in the shadows, whispering plans of attack. We withdraw, you react. A gabacho gets slapped. Step back, motherfucker, you don't know me like that. This is my form of decrement of broken social agreements. You baby bloodsucking leeches, pervert political leaders, sinning as hard as the preachers. Only God can judge how your heart full of hate, but your mouth speaking love. I don't need to go to heaven, see I'm calling all your bluff. Maybe we can stop pretending, nothing. See, my people had enough. Yes, all one love, but you still got a duck. Better watch the way you move before they get you with the.
Yeah, that's right. Women of freedom fighters too. Lady Jones, you know what the fuck to do.
You think you know me? Ooh, it's Mr. Diamond Moolah with the dirty ruga. Yo soy boricua, still a nigga with a sick medulla. My skin's a sin, the jinx be trying to genocide. A real nigga, and I say that with pride. This is it, boy. The new age revolution fighters get a grip, boy. Shooting in and out the gym, the clips don't miss, boy. I'm moving stealth like a real shooter. Might drop a bomb on a border wall abuser. Unify the people was Pride and Fred Hampton. Climbing up a ladder, took an axe to my stanchion. Didn't know that I would bounce back deadly fashion. Mask on, stash it, pistol blast and passion. They say you could be anything that you put your mind to, but mind you, since the boat had a mouth full of swan dude. Jagganator coming through like Macho Man and UT. With a Booker T, you cross us wrong, you go 6 feet.
Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, is that Rex? Okay, let's go. Yeah, Rex, check these motherfuckers out here.
You think you know me?
Don't bother Rex, rip your heart from your chest. You want pain? Well then I leave my name carved in your flesh. They say sleep is the father of death. Why would you bother the best? I keep a bag of tools, carpenter vet. I clothesline, so I just slaughter the rest. Dinos and Aztecs, blast text if I send out this mass text. I fight sobriety, mass stress. I'm trying to move the culture forward. Conscious aura, death to who came before us. In blood I paint the forest, then cover my face, absorb it. Feel the torment of my bloodline. Sacrificed, I'm a martyr. Free Palestine. And if the media too promotes slander, that's what the media do. Instead of exposing the truth, we get shot and killed, controlled like a zoo. But let nationalists march the capital, holding the noose. I lace my boots and prepare for the rivalry. The spirits inside of me, guiding me. Man, they gotta be the God in me. Hey yo, Jag, Dre, I see the play. Building an army of indigenous snipers. Salute to the comrades. Eyes on Mali, talk to them.
You think you know me?
Phonetic aggression, poetic aggression. My sharpened bone helped me pass through the metal detector. When I die, I hope the flowers in the ghettos connect us. So you'll be lost in the puddle of ancestral nectar. Listen, the mangoes grow in the ground that I walk on. My battle scars now have became my sakya. Carrying my lyrics like I turned to an Oscar. You can meet me somewhere in the middle of Aslan. The Molotov cocktail, we're hating the cop car. Whether you're screaming Omidale or Allahu Akbar. When I'm coming to kill you, believe it will not spar. Whether you hit the right jab or down with the southpaw. Keep going, we live inside a world that's without stars. Clouds fall, the child's tears going all out war. Why you think I keep the mask inside of the house for? What you know about less in the day in the outdoors? Pull up with the mask and I feel like I'm Jack War.
Manifest destiny. I'm your enemy, your natural enemy. Manifest destiny. We are your enemies, your natural enemies, your natural enemies.
Ical, hijo, abre los ojos. Tu cuerpo se queda con nosotros, pero tu espíritu debe seguir. Busca la luz. Aléjate de las sombras. Deja que nuestro dolor sea tu fuerza. Desde aquí iluminamos tu camino. Lucha como nosotros ante esta pena tan grande. Yo soy tú. Tú eres yo. La muerte que hoy nos separa Mañana volverá a unirnos. Eres libre, hijo.